Chapter 153. There was no doubt that fire countered metal. Not to mention that although the Demon Vulture King was at the peak of the 5th rank, its mana was still of the ordinary gung metal attribute. When the ordinary gung metal met the extreme fire, its attributes would be completely suppressed. Under the situation where the strongest attack of the ultimate skill was forcefully blocked by Jidong, the elemental advantage immediately burst out. When the spears rapidly melted, how could the Demon Vulture King display its powerful piercing power? Using defense as offense, this was Jidong's plan. Seeing the rays of white light gradually disappearing, Jidong suddenly roared and raised both his fists towards the sky. A sharp yet melodious hiss sounded from Jidong's body. His already somewhat broken dark flame Devil King physique was completely engulfed in black flames, and combined with the fire spell formation behind him, transforming into a 7-meter-long black flying serpent. It soared into the sky and pounced towards the Devil Tungsten Vulture King. When this attack was launched, Jidong and the Scorpion simultaneously felt that their condensed mana had been completely exhausted. The Scorpion's body went limp and almost slid down from Jidong's body. However, Jidong subconsciously raised his hands and grabbed her thighs. Although he was wearing the dual radiance of sun and moon gloves, when Jidong grabbed the slender, smooth, and explosive thighs, he could still clearly feel the softness of the Scorpion's skin. Fortunately, due to the lack of mana, the spikes on the Demon Monarch Yin-Yang armor had already disappeared. Otherwise, his grab would have cut through the Scorpion's skin. The black flying serpent danced in the air and instantly arrived in front of the Demon Vulture King. One snake and one vulture fought in the air. The advantage of the extreme fire attribute's suppression was completely revealed. Moreover, it wasn't like Jidong didn't have any gains after using the ultimate skill. His mental strength had been greatly enhanced, so controlling the flying serpent was not a problem at all. The Demon Vulture King had also used up a large amount of mana. Due to a moment of carelessness, its neck was wrapped by the flying serpent's tail. What would it face when the extreme fire got close to it? Naturally, it was an endless corrosive fire. The Demon Vulture King could no longer pose a threat. The magical power of the winged serpent that Jidong had transformed into was seeping into its body bit by bit. That extreme corrosion was something that even the golden heptametal might not be able to withstand, not to mention a magical beast with ordinary metal magical power. Boom! When the Devil Vulture King's huge body fell heavily on the ground and the ice-cold black flames burned more and more fiercely, Jidong and the Scorpion let out a long breath at the same time. Jidong subconsciously tightened his hands and suddenly felt a burst of soft elasticity. The Scorpion cried out in pain. Only then did Jidong realize that his hands were still hugging the Scorpion's thighs. He quickly let go. With a plop, the powerless Scorpion immediately made intimate contact with the ground. "Bastard, you barbarian!" Scorpion shouted angrily. Jidong's mouth twitched. "I didn't do it on purpose." The Scorpion said angrily. "Not on purpose? Then it was planned, premeditated. Barbarian, you are a barbarian. Anyway, the Devil Vulture King is dead. You can burn the bridge after crossing the river. Come, kill me, do it." Jidong turned around and looked at the Scorpion speechlessly. "Are you really a Dark Imu saint?" The Scorpion said proudly, "Of course." Jidong sighed softly and said, "But why do I feel like you are quarreling like a shrew in the marketplace?" You are the shrew." The Scorpion was so angry that she almost choked to death. No one had ever called her that before. "You dare to call me a shrew?" Jidong shrugged his shoulders and sat down not far from the Scorpion. "You can call me a barbarian, why can't I call you a shrew? Do you think I still have the power to kill you now? Although you are a bit unruly, at least your extreme Imu magic is not bad. Our temporary alliance is successful. If we miss today, we will still be mortal enemies the next time we meet." Hearing the first part of Jidong's words, the Scorpion couldn't help but be angrier. but when she heard the latter part, she couldn't help but be stunned. "You mean you won't kill me today?" Ji Dong said indifferently. "I don't have the habit of burning the bridge after crossing the river. If it wasn't for the cooperation just now, we might be corpses now." For some reason, after hearing Ji Dong's words, the anger in Scorpion's heart suddenly disappeared. Staring at Ji Dong, she suddenly said, "Barbarian, let me see your face." Ji Dong glanced at her and said, "What? You want to take revenge on me?" The Scorpion said unyieldingly, "Are you going to show me or not? I'll trade with you. I'll let you see my face." Jiwa shook her head and said nonchalantly, "What's there to look at with your appearance? I'm not interested. Have you always thought so highly of yourself?" You. The Scorpion grabbed a handful of soil on the ground and threw it at Hyoheim. Of course, it didn't have any lethality, but it could fully express the anger in her heart at this time. Ji Dong ignored her. He closed his eyes and continued to recover his mana. Although there was no doubt that the Dark Emu Saint in front of him was a stunner, he didn't have any interest in this beauty. Just like how Lon Bauer couldn't move his heart had long been occupied by the flaming bar. If he had to say what he felt about the Scorpion, it would be admiration. From the moment they entered the Holy Evil Island, the battle had never stopped. The Scorpion's strength, reaction speed, and intelligence were all superior to Ji Dong's. Ji Dong could be sure that even those level 60 Devil Masters from the Five Elements continent who entered the Holy Evil battlefield couldn't deal with this woman, let alone Yi Xin, who was also level 58. When Ji Dong saw her after using his ultimate skill, he couldn't help but be shocked. Of course, this woman couldn't have appeared here by coincidence. The only explanation was that she had been following behind him, looking for an opportunity to kill him. This forbearance, not retreating in the face of a stronger opponent, and that concealment skill that he couldn't detect, made Ji Dong's heart tremble. If it wasn't for his ultimate skill that had a huge impact on the area within a kilometer, the Scorpion might have already killed him before the Tungsten Vulture King appeared. In the end, with the appearance of the Tungsten Vulture King, Scorpion didn't hesitate to join forces with him and used the most direct method to help him fight against the powerful peak of the 5th rank. Ji Dong asked himself, if he was in the same position, he wouldn't be able to do better than the Scorpion. Seeing that Ji Dong was ignoring him, the Scorpion couldn't help but glare at him fiercely and hurriedly began to restore his own mana. God knows what kind of magical beast would come next. The two of them entered meditation again, each working hard to restore their own mana. Ji Dong previously said that he wouldn't kill the Scorpion today, and it was very well-founded. With their current situation, Ji Dong's body was much better than before after using the ultimate skill. As long as he was given time, his recovery speed would definitely surpass the Scorpion, not to mention that his comprehensive strength was above the Scorpion. In the case of not considering any external interference, if they fought to the death, the one who would die in the end would definitely be the Scorpion, not him. Time passed minute by minute. Suddenly, Ji Dong and the Scorpion opened their eyes almost at the same time. The two of them subconsciously looked at each other and saw the admiration in each other's eyes. Although they were in the middle of cultivation, their vigilance was not reduced at all. At the same time, they felt that there were creatures approaching, so they looked over. A total of 4 figures were approaching at an extremely fast speed. Seeing these 4 figures, the Scorpion's eyes suddenly revealed a strong sense of joy, but Ji Dong's heart sank. The yin-yang corona on the heads of these 4 people showed that they had the strength of a quadruple crown. No matter what their attributes were, the first thing that Ji Dong noticed was the deep black circle around their yin-yang corona. Their identity as a dark magic master of the 5 Elements continent was the reason why his heart was heavy. In the end, the Scorpion's reinforcements arrived first. The Scorpion took out a cloak from somewhere and wrapped it around his exposed body. He looked at Hyoheim with some pride. Ji Dong did not move. At this moment, he had only recovered about 10% of his mana. Even if he wanted to move, he could not do it at all. After using the super ultimate skill, he had fallen into a state of weakness. Previously, he had forcefully cooperated with the Scorpion to kill the Woot's Iron Demon Vulture King. Now, he had no combat strength at all. The super ultimate skill had drawn out all the power in his origin except for the chaotic flame. From a certain point of view, he had also injured his vitality. It would be difficult for him to recover in this wholly evil battlefield. Even if he wanted to move now, it would be meaningless. Very soon, the 4 magic masters, who were about 20 to 30 years old, approached quickly. Seeing the 2 people sitting cross-legged on the ground, one of them shouted in surprise, "It's Lord Scorpion, it's Lord Scorpion!" Seeing that one side was Scorpion, and the other side was a magic master that they did not know, the 4 elites of the Dark Continent did not hesitate to quickly surround Ji-dong. Mana burst forth, and a huge pressure immediately locked onto Ji-dong. "Lord Scorpion, are you all right?" Qingyan, who spoke before, turned to ask Scorpion. Anyone could see that Scorpion was in a sorry state. Scorpion nodded and said, "I'm fine." The young man said, "Who is he? Is he an enemy or one of us?" Because Ji-dong did not release the yin-yang crown, they could not tell which continent Ji-dong belonged to. Scorpion said indifferently, "Don't worry about him. Help me out of here." Hearing Scorpion's words, Ji-dong could not help but open his eyes and look at her in surprise. Although he had said that he would not kill Scorpion today, Scorpion did not say that. He also did not think that Scorpion would let him go. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Scorpion's mouth. She said, "Barbarian, you are not the only one who is righteous. I will not burn the bridge after crossing the river. Let's go." Lord Scorpion, this. The 4 people did not act immediately. They looked at Scorpion hesitantly. To be able to represent the 5 elements continent to enter the wholly evil battlefield, these people were the elites of the elite. From the situation in front of them and the mess around them, they could naturally see a lot of things. Moreover, this place was where the super sure kill technique phenomenon appeared. No matter how they looked at it, the man wearing a dark red mask in front of them was an expert. The fact that he could fight with Scorpion to a draw had already proved his strength. How could they be willing to let such a big fish go just like that? Scorpion's eyes flashed fiercely, and she said, "Didn't you hear what I said?" The bodies of the 4 people trembled, and a look of horror appeared in their eyes. They resentfully retracted their mana and walked to Scorpion, who had already supported herself to stand up, and wanted to take her away. At this moment, a melodious voice suddenly sounded, "Scorpion, what you are doing is wrong. Don't you want such a great contribution?" Along with the appearance of the voice, a shadow flashed, and a figure had already quietly appeared beside Scorpion. The person who came was wearing purple armor, but it was purple full-body armor, just that he did not have wings like Scorpion's armor. On top of his head, there was a black yin crown with the brand of the water element, 5 crowns and 4 stars. It was exactly the same as Scorpion, but the cold aura was not inferior to Scorpion. From the appearance of the armor, this person was a man, but his voice was more like a woman's. When he walked, he even twisted his slender waist, but the helmet covered his face, so people could not see his true appearance. Although this person looked so effeminate that it was nauseating, every step he took gave people an extremely mysterious feeling. Wherever he passed, ice marks were left on the ground, and he did not conceal the pressure of his aura, which actually made the weakened Ji-dong feel some changes in the attribute suppression. Ultimate Gui water was also ultimate Yin water. Ji-dong's gaze had already turned cold, and he sighed in his heart. His luck was really not that good, to actually meet another Dark Saint. To be precise, it was the Dark Gui Water Saint, Lord Cold Rain. The 4 four-crowned Devil Masters bowed to the Dark Gui Water Saint at the same time. However, the Dark Gui Water Saint did not pay attention to them at all. Instead, he walked to Scorpion and said, "Sister Scorpion, it seems that you are not lightly injured. Come, let Big Brother treat you. As he spoke, he raised his right hand, and the intense purple light quietly changed, with specks of starlight. It was the amethyst heavenly star magic that only ultimate Gui water had, ultimate Een water. Take your dirty hands away, who needs you to treat me? Scorpion waved his hand in disgust and said in a low voice, Cold Rain, after today, you can deal with whoever you like, it has nothing to do with me. But you cannot kill this person today, he just saved my life. Let's go. Chapter 154. This dark sunflower water saint didn't have the slightest intention of leaving. He gracefully bypassed Scorpion and walked towards Hyoheim. Cold Rain, do you want to die? Scorpion said angrily. However, she really didn't have the slightest strength to stop him. Scorpion, you can't say that. I'm doing this for your own good. If I'm not wrong, the ultimate killing skill just now was released by this guy. That's the aura of the extreme Yin and Yang fire. Heavenly Gone Saint is born with it. Our boss is still far away from the 9 crowns, and the other side can't have a 9-crown Devil Master, but he can release the ultimate killing skill. There's no doubt that this person should be the holy king of this generation of Heavenly Gone Saint. As long as I can kill him and bring back his crystal crown, even if you are the boss's sister, the boss will not blame me. With such a great achievement, let brother have a share. Don't worry, I won't forget your contribution. I won't tell the boss about you stopping me just now. Scorpion's gaze subconsciously shifted to Hyoheim. What she saw was Ji Dong's indifferent eyes hidden under the red pupils of the Devil Yin Yang armor mask. There was no fear, no shock, not even the slightest bit of worry. Still so calm, his back was as straight as ever, indifferent as snow, strangely cold as ice, as if he didn't care at all about the sudden appearance of the dark sunflower water saint. Ji Dong naturally also saw Scorpion's gaze. Scorpion's gaze was apologetic, helpless, and also a touch of regret and loss. Everyone was a smart person. She knew that it was impossible for her to stop Cold Rain. She could only watch everything that was about to happen in front of her. Just like a bright sunflower water saint who suddenly appeared and saw Scorpion, he would not let her go. My guess is not wrong, Sir Holy King of Light. Cold Rain looked at Ji Dong with a twisted expression, but the gaze hidden under the helmet was as cold as a poisonous snake. Ji Dong didn't speak. King Aowen just let him cast a disdainful glance at the other. Han Yu giggled, and that slender waist that was like a lotus leaf in the wind suddenly moved, giving off the feeling that an ancient glacier had suddenly exploded. This movement of his was the exact opposite of his own gentleness, and was filled with a bone-piercing chill. In almost an instant, his fist had already arrived in front of Ji Dong's chest. His hands crossed, palms facing outwards. Ji Dong's magic did not allow him to dodge, he could only block. There was a soft puff, and the next moment, his body was already flying away like a cannonball, bouncing backward. A layer of amethyst light with specks of starlight instantly covered his entire body, sealing every part of his body in ice. However, the dark water saint disciple Han Yu was stunned, because he discovered to his shock that his punch seemed to have hit empty air. A soft yet strong elastic force made it so that he was unable to continue with his follow-up attack. With a resounding shattering sound, Ji Dong straightened his body and stood up. The layer of ice that densely covered his body was shattered inch by inch, scattering in all directions. Among the people present, only Scorpion understood how difficult it was for Ji Dong to block Cold Rain's punch and stand up. Previously, when facing the Tungsten Demon Vulture King's attack, Ji Dong could be said to have borne the full force of the attack, and his own magic was also greatly consumed. Although Scorpion could also stand up with difficulty, she knew that it was impossible for her to bear any degree of attack. But not only did Ji Dong bear it, he also stood there steadily, looking like the first time she saw him. Is this man's body and nerves made of metal? Why is he so tough? Cold Rain was also secretly awestruck. Although Ji Dong's body was covered in dirt and looked like he was heavily injured, the huge Yin-Yang Tai Chi fish that appeared in the sky, as well as the terrifying aura of the sure-kill skill, had also left a deep impression on him. Seeing Ji Dong stand up, he also unconsciously became cautious. With a low shout, Cold Rain clasped his hands in front of his chest. Suddenly, a bright purple ball of ice rapidly grew, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the size of a soccer ball. Sharp ice thorns protruded from the ball of ice, and the cold aura caused a faint layer of white mist to appear around Cold Rain's body. As the saying goes, when an expert makes a move, you will know whether or not he's an expert. Although the aura released by the Dark Water Saint was slightly weaker than Scorpion's life ignition skill, the difference was only by a few millimeters. With a flash of light, the ice ball that looked like it was carved out of amethyst had already shot out. Its speed was incomparably fast, as if there was some kind of power behind it. The chill of the extreme Yin water demon caused a thick white mist to appear in the air. This time, Ji Dong did not use his palms to block, because his palms were already somewhat numb. There was no doubt that water subdued fire. Although Ji Dong's ultimate dual flames greatly weakened this restraint, his remaining demon power was still too limited. When he blocked Cold Rain's attack just now, he had mostly relied on the vermilion bird transformation, winged serpent transformation, and the defensive power of the demon monarch Yin-Yang armor to barely block it. However, his hands were somewhat numb from the extreme cold, and they had yet to recover. It was unrealistic to use his hands to block it again. At this moment, Ji Dong could not even raise his arms. Therefore, he didn't make any movement to block or dodge at all. He just puffed out his chest and brazenly took a step forward, using his chest to block the dark treading water saint's demonic skill. Cold Rain subconsciously thought to himself, is this guy crazy? He had never seen someone use a method like Ji Dong to block a demon monarch Yin-Yang armor. Boom! The huge ball of ice heavily bombarded the heart protection mirror in front of Ji Dong's demon monarch Yin-Yang armor. With a violent explosion, the ice powder scattered in all directions, and Ji Dong's body was sent flying far away. With a pft, Ji Dong spat out a mouthful of blood in midair, and fell heavily to the ground. The power of the Dark Water Saint's hit skill was too strong. Although Ji Dong tried his best to use the strength conversion technique to dissolve it and also used his body to weaken the attack, the difference in demon power caused the effect of the elemental suppression to be completely displayed. His entire body felt a strange chill that he had never felt before spread throughout his body. If it were not for the fact that his body was extremely sturdy after being soaked in dragon blood, coupled with the protection of the 2 layers of armor and the winged serpent transformation, this attack would have been enough to take his life. Seeing that Ji Dong had been sent flying, Cold Rain secretly let out a sigh of relief. He laughed. So it's just a spear that looks like it's made of wax. It looks good, but it's useless. Scorpion's fists were already clenched tightly at some point. He said coldly, if he's a spear that looks like it's made of wax, then you're not even worth a fart. After killing a Peak Class 7 magical beast and a Peak Class 5 magical beast, you came to take advantage of them. You're called a heavenly stem saint just like you. You make me feel disgusted and humiliated. Just as Scorpion spoke, Ji Dong, who had fallen heavily to the ground and had spat out a mouthful of blood and turned into ice shards, actually stood up again. His movements seemed to be very difficult, and his body was even swaying. However, he resolutely stood up bit by bit. With the mask blocking his expression, it was impossible to see his current expression. However, the blood-red eyes hidden behind the mask still gave off a formless pressure. That arrogance did not weaken at all because of the attack on his body. The demon monarch Yin-Yang armor, and even the vermilion bird inner armor, were all covered in a layer of purple frost. Waves of chilliness and dense icy mist constantly rose from Ji Dong's body. For a demon master of fire to have such a situation happen, there was no doubt that his current condition was extremely poor. However, even so, he still stood up. The demon monarch Yin-Yang armor was indeed sturdy. Even under the attack of a peak demon master of the water domain, who was close to 6 crowns in terms of magical strength, the breastplate still showed no signs of damage. The huge explosive force only caused it to cave in slightly. Raising his hand, Ji Dong's right fist suddenly struck the breastplate on his chest. With a loud clang, the layer of ice on his body shattered and fell off the armor. Staring at the dark water, Saint Hanyu, although his voice was very low and hoarse, it was still extremely firm. He even yelled at his opponent with a domineering and arrogant tone. Again, Hanyu was indeed shocked. He was even a little frightened by the appearance of Ji Dong in front of him. From Scorpion's description, this person in front of him, whether or not he was a saint king of the radiant 5 elements continent, after going through a series of battles, it was impossible for him to have any strength left. However, under such a strong attack, he was still able to stand up again. It seemed that the principle of water restraining fire had lost its effect on him. Of course, water restraining fire would not lose its effect. At this moment, Ji Dong's body felt as if it had fallen into an ice cellar. The attack of extreme magical power was far from being comparable to that of ordinary magical power. If it was not for his source of magical power, the flame of chaos, protecting his internal organs, even if he used the vermilion bird transformation and the winged serpent transformation, without the support of magical power, he would not be able to completely block the invasion of the extreme water domain. Ji Dong did not know what would happen if he were to put it on, but he would not be timid. That was his own pride, and also the pride of the 2 great monarchs. Even if he was facing an opponent he could not defeat, he would not yield. Hanyu slowly raised his hands. His left arm was bent and his right arm was straight. A layer of purple mist slowly rose from his body. In the surrounding air there was no more white mist, but it was completely dyed purple. A huge turtle appeared behind him. Its whole body was pure black, but the magical power it emitted was the same as Hanyu's. It was a pure amethyst color. It was the sunflower water totem, black tortoise. The original meaning of black tortoise was the mysterious underworld. The ancient sounds of Wu and underworld were interlinked. Xian meant black, and underworld meant Yin, referring to the dark Yin attribute. And at this time, what Hanyu released was the water of extreme Yin. With the appearance of the black tortoise, Scorpion's expression changed. However, the cold air around her made her unable to speak. The 4 four-crowned devil masters hurriedly took her and retreated to a place further away. Facing Ji Dong's strength, Hanyu finally used his ultimate skill. Scorpion's words were like a sharp knife stabbing into his heart. But no matter what, even if he had to use his ultimate skill, he had to destroy Ji Dong in front of him to wash away his shame. The cold air gradually condensed. Hanyu put his hands together and raised them above his head. The huge shadow of the black tortoise behind him suddenly rushed into his body. In the next moment, Hanyu's body and his armor turned into a transparent amethyst color, as if he had turned into the purest ultimate magical power of Guai Shui. An ear-piercing hiss came from his mouth, and a round piece of purple ice appeared in front of him. The purple ice was only about 1 meter in diameter, and the main patterns on it looked exactly the same as the patterns on the black tortoise's shell. But above each pattern, there were many more complicated patterns. The strong aura completely sucked away the ultimate magical power of Ji Dong's body in an instant. The edges of the circular ice shard were as sharp as blades. When it completely condensed above Hanyu's head, Hanyu's eyes suddenly lit up. Even through the cover of his helmet, he could still see the 2 points of purple light shooting out like lightning. Go, ultimate skill, black tortoise extreme Yin kill. With an ear-piercing hum, the round piece of ice spun violently. The water droplets in the air turned into ice, bringing with it a beautiful arc and extreme chill. The round piece of ice spiraled in the air and went straight for Ji Dong. This was not only a ultimate skill, but also the ultimate skill of Saint Gui Shui. Moreover, the magical power was completely condensed and would not disperse. Although Han Yu was taking advantage of the situation, he had some confidence in Ji Dong's ability. He understood that Ji Dong had a defense that was far beyond his imagination, so he made such a choice. Not only did he use his strongest ultimate skill, but it was also a pure single-target attack. He firmly believed that no matter how good Ji Dong's defense was, without the support of magical power, he would definitely die in front of his ultimate skill. If Ji Dong had enough magical power at this time, he wouldn't even need to transform into his monarch body. A single ice of flames could easily stop the attack of the Black Tortoise Extreme Kill. However, he couldn't do anything now. The chill in his body hadn't disappeared yet. The chaotic fire could only protect his internal organs, but it wouldn't help him dispel the chill. After all, he was still far from understanding the profound meaning of the primal chaos. At this time, Ji Dong's limbs were filled with a stiff feeling. It was extremely difficult to move, let alone block the ultimate skill of Saint Gui Shui. He could only helplessly watch the ice piece full of cutting power attack his body. Han Yu's face, hidden under the armor, revealed a trace of a sinister smile. He seemed to have already seen Ji Dong's body being cut into two by his ultimate skill. He even saw the appearance of tens of thousands of people looking up to him after he succeeded. The single-target attack power was not inferior to the terrifying ultimate skill of the Platinum Celestial Rock. In the blink of an eye, it had already arrived in front of Ji Dong. When the extreme mysterious ice blade arrived in front of Ji Dong, it suddenly sank down. It didn't collide head-on with the Devil Yin-Yang armor's heart protection mirror. Instead, it directly cut towards the area between Ji Dong's chest and abdomen that was only protected by the vermilion bird armor. Sinister had always been one of the characteristics of Gui Shui. Chapter 155. Dark Water. Saint Han Yu had taught Ji Dong another lesson. However, he didn't know if the actual combat experience he had comprehended was still meaningful to him. An intense piercing pain could be felt instantly. The rapidly spinning Black Tortoise Extreme Kill brought with it an extreme chill. Even the vermilion bird inner armor couldn't completely withstand it. Amidst the ear-piercing sounds of friction, layers of sparks flew in all directions. Blood spurted out. The vermilion bird inner armor on the surface of Ji Dong's skin was broken just like that. The vermilion bird transformation was broken. Next was the soaring serpent transformation. Ji Dong's muscles, bones, and meridians were all twisting violently, displaying the toughness of the soaring serpent to the fullest. He did his best to offset the cutting force of the amethyst ice flakes. However, the Black Tortoise Extreme Kill wasn't just a sharp attack. It also contained the terrifying characteristics of the extreme water. The devilish chill greatly weakened the defense of the vermilion bird transformation and the soaring serpent transformation. Although the defense of the two heavenly stem divine beasts was good, there was still a limit to what they could endure without the support of magic. A strange scene appeared in front of Han Yu, Scorpion, and the others from the Darkness continent. The Black Tortoise Extreme Kill actually couldn't slash through Ji Dong's body. Instead, it cut through his muscles, constantly emitting ear-piercing sounds of friction that made one's teeth ache. Only now did they truly understand how terrifying Ji Dong's defense was. I can't take it anymore. I can't block it anymore. Ji Dong only felt that his body was already numb. Under the effect of the extreme water magic, he could no longer take the initiative to use the soaring serpent transformation technique. The final defense of his body was collapsing bit by bit. The extreme cold aura madly invaded his body along with the wound on his chest and abdomen. It flowed along his blood vessels and spread to every corner of his body. It was as if the meridians in his body had also frozen at this moment. Don't give up. You can block it. He didn't know if it was an illusion amidst the pain, but the voice in the flaming bar suddenly rang out in Ji Dong's mind. That voice was filled with encouragement and anxiety, as well as a hint of hesitation and struggle. The core world. The flaming bar floated above the rock-quake lake. Her fists were clenched tightly. The magma in the Earth's core was stirred up by her emotions. Her eyes flickered with uncertainty. At this moment, the beautiful flaming bar was experiencing an indescribable emotion. In front of her, the scene of Ji Dong enduring the attack flashed in the illusory light and shadow. Ji Dong, don't give up, hold on, your reinforcements will be here soon, I. The void had already been torn apart, she only needed one step to reach Ji Dong's side, but could she really do that? There would only be one outcome. When the flaming bar told him not to give up, it was as if a huge firecracker had exploded in the depths of Ji Dong's soul. He let out an earth-shattering, domineering roar. In that instant, a milky white light suddenly burst out from his body. It spread wildly from the demon Jun Yin-Yang armor's heart protection mirror, cleansing his entire body. The dent on the demon Jun Yin-Yang armor bounced up and actually returned to normal. In the next moment, all the chill along with the black tortoise extreme Yin attack completely disappeared in the air. That milky white light was like the vermilion bird inner armor returning to its original color, but it didn't have the domineering third fire or the profoundness of fourth fire. There was only the endless aura of origin. There were no flames, and that white light only circled around his body once. However, all the extreme Yin water's demonic power, including the stiff demonic power of Ji Dong's body, completely melted away at this moment, as if it had never existed. This is impossible, Scorpion and Cold Rain said at the same time. This was also the third time the same words came out of Scorpion's mouth. They couldn't believe the scene in front of them. That was the ultimate Gui water sure-kill technique of the dark holy water saint. It looked like Ji Dong's body was about to be cut in half and completely destroyed. But it was gone just like that. Moreover, although the milky white light emitted from Ji Dong's body only flashed for a moment, the aura that was as deep as the abyss and as deep as the mountains made the two dark holy disciples tremble from the depths of the spirit realm. What was this? Ji Dong's consciousness was already blurred. The ultimate Gui water demonic power didn't completely disperse in that instant, but completely engulfed it. The flame of chaos, under the extreme pressure, and under the situation where Ji Dong's mind was filled with the desire to survive, finally erupted, swallowing all the demonic power of the attack, including the sure-kill technique, the Black Tortoise Extreme Yin attack, completely. However, all of Ji Dong's defenses also collapsed at this moment. The Vermilion Bird transformation and Winged Serpent transformation were completely silent. Even the Jun Mo Yin-Yang armor lost its luster. Because the wound between his chest and abdomen was no longer blocked by the ice, blood spurted out wildly, turning into a large rain of blood that scattered in all directions. Fortunately, his body still had the recovery ability left behind by the dragon blood. The cut muscles, skin, and meridians were wriggling and quickly healing. But even so, at this time, Ji Dong no longer had the slightest power to resist. Earth Core Lake, Flaming Bar. 1 foot had already stepped into the tear in the void. Her face was full of struggle, and 2 lines of clear tears flowed down both sides of her face. At this moment, in the depths of her mind, emerged the scene of her dancing with Ji Dong at the ball, as well as the red heart that flew in Ji Dong's hand and turned into a mixer. Who dares to hurt my junior brother? At this moment, just as the dark holy water saint and the dark Emu saint fell into a daze, an earth-shaking shout rang out in the air, as if a bolt of lightning had descended into the mortal world. The air was sticky, and a bluish-purple light immediately replaced the dark clouds, causing the entire sky to change color. Han Yu and the Scorpion were startled awake by this sudden change. The two raised their heads to look at the sky, and Han Yu immediately said in shock, "It's the Thunder Emperor." Yes, just as Ji Dong had lost all of his abilities, Fury finally arrived in time. He saw Ji Dong's chest and abdomen spurting out blood, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. At this moment, Fury had already sunk into a violent rage. The Thunder Emperor's rage could frighten even ghosts and gods. In an instant, a piercing bluish-purple light completely enveloped Fury and the purple Thunder Heaven Dragon under him. In an instant, the human and magical beast had become one. The Thunder Emperor of the 7 Crowns level and the purple Thunder Heaven Dragon at the peak of the 8th step. How terrifying was the demonic power produced by the combination of this instant. The Thunder Axe instantly gathered together and tore through the air. A huge lightning blade seemed to cut through the sky and split the earth. No matter how fast the Thunder Axe was, it definitely couldn't compare to lightning. Fury absolutely wouldn't allow his little junior brother to suffer any more injuries. It was also for Ji Dong's sake that he didn't directly launch an all-out attack in his rage. Not good, let's go. Han Yu could no longer care about killing Ji Dong. His own life was the most important. He cried out in alarm and flipped his wrist. A strange scroll had already appeared in his hand. Under the flickering light, 5 different colors were emitted at the same time. It was actually the 5 elements of Yin attribute magic. Imu, 4th fire, 6th earth, 8th metal, 10th water. The 5 elements of Yin attribute magic instantly transformed into a strange spell formation in the air, enveloping an area with a diameter of only 1 meter. The dark holy water saint, Han Yu, pulled the dark Imu saint, Scorpion in front of him and entered the protection of the 5 elements of Yin attribute magic. Under the effect of the spell formation, the 5 elements of Yin attribute magic exploded to the extreme. Boom. The lightning from the Thunder Axe heavily bombarded the location where the people of the 5 elements continent were. The 4 Crown Demon Masters didn't even have time to groan before they were already blown to pieces, leaving only 4 darkness crystal crowns scattered in all directions. Only Han Yu and Scorpion, who were enveloped by the 5 elements of Yin attribute magic formation, were not affected in the slightest. That strange 5-colored light forcibly blocked Fury's attack. This was not the first time they had faced the Thunder Emperor Fury. Those 4 Crown Demon Masters didn't know how terrifying the Thunder Emperor was, but how could Han Yu and Scorpion not know? Although the Thunder Emperor wasn't a heavenly stem saint, his mutated lightning attribute magic was not inferior to the ultimate magic. Coupled with the Thunder Emperor's own terrifying strength, he had long since become the nightmare of the dark side in the holy evil battlefield. Therefore, as soon as he saw Fury appear, Han Yu did not hesitate to tear his ancestral treasure scroll. He would rather use this priceless treasure to save his life first. Scorpion's gaze still fell on Ji Dong's face. Ji Dong was still standing there. Although he was weak and on the verge of death, he still stood there proudly, unwilling to fall. His gaze had already become somewhat blurred. Scorpion naturally understood what kind of sign this was. However, she believed even more that this man, who had created countless miracles, would not die so easily. At the same time that her body was completely enveloped by the 5-colored light, Scorpion quietly took off the mask on her face, revealing her face. Her mouth was moving, but no sound came out. If one looked carefully, they would find that she was saying, "Remember my name is Scorpion. We will definitely meet again." Without the mask covering her face, what was revealed was a peerlessly beautiful face. Even though she was currently in such a sorry state, it was unable to hide her natural beauty. Other than her devilish figure, she also had an angelic face, fair skin, large dark green eyes, long eyelashes that carried a few droplets of water, and a face that was so exquisite that it was almost perfect. Everything was presented at this moment. Unfortunately, everything in front of Ji Dong was blurry, and he could not see anything clearly. The 5-colored light flickered, and the figures of the 2 dark saints disappeared the moment the purple thunder heavenly dragon landed, leaving only faint mana fluctuations in the air. With a loud bang, the purple thunder heavenly dragon landed on the ground. Before it landed, Thunder Emperor Fury had already turned into a bluish-purple stream of light and pounced in front of Ji Dong, hugging his little junior brother who was on the verge of collapse. The wound between his chest and abdomen was still bleeding. Although the blood flow was rapidly decreasing, Ji Dong's body was already so weak that he did not even have the strength to tremble. Fury hurriedly pressed one hand on Ji Dong's wound. Lightning flashed, and Ji Dong's body trembled. The huge wound was forcibly burned and closed by the power of the lightning. Fury was very clear about Ji Dong's self-healing ability, and he had to ensure that Ji Dong would not die from excessive blood loss. Little junior brother, I'm late. You must hold on, and nothing must happen to you. Bastards, damn it, these bastards. Darkness 5 elements continent, just you wait. If I don't tear you into pieces, I'm not the Thunder Emperor. At this moment, Fury's anger had already risen to the peak, but he had nowhere to vent it. Say, Senior, brother, don't worry. I won't die. You came at the right time. If you were a little later, I'm afraid I really won't be able to. Just now, I killed 2 magical beasts. Don't forget to take their cores. I'm afraid I'll sleep for a while. First, Ji Dong's lips trembled as he said these intermittently. Finally, his vision darkened and he fell unconscious. Hearing Fury's voice, his mind was finally able to relax. At this moment, he did not reveal a pained expression because of his heavy injuries. The face hidden under the mask of the Devil Monarch Yin-Yang armor even carried a proud smile. Yes, he had first battled the Dark Imu Saint, then exterminated the 7th and 5th rank magical beasts, and finally managed to preserve his life under the Dark Holy Water Saint's sure-kill attack. He had even released a powerful skill that was extremely close to a sure-kill technique. Of course, he had the qualifications to be proud. Earth's core lake. Flaming Bar's face was already full of tears, and her face revealed an expression of extreme pain. The Terran space had already closed, and she no longer needed to worry about Ji Dong's life. However, the pain in her heart did not lessen because of this. I'm sorry. Ji Dong, when you needed me the most, I didn't go to your side. In order to save my own life, I didn't save you. Am I too selfish? I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Flaming Bar sobbed painfully. Just at the moment when Ji Dong was hit by the ultimate skill, she truly discovered that in her heart, this human boy had already left an indelible mark. A seed that had been nurtured for a long time had finally begun to sprout in her heart at this moment. A determined expression gradually replaced her pain. Flaming Bar seemed to have made a decision. Darkness, such a long darkness. This sleep was really sweet. Not knowing how much time had passed, Ji Dong could still only feel darkness. He did not know how long it had been since he had slept for such a long time. Vaguely, he seemed to feel that there was often something cold being applied to his forehead, giving him an extremely comfortable and cool feeling. However, this feeling only existed for a moment before he fell into endless darkness again. Chapter 156. After an unknown amount of time, when he regained consciousness, Ji Dong only felt that his entire body was sore and powerless, as if he did not even have the strength to lift a finger. In a daze, he slowly opened his eyes, and suddenly felt as if there was something next to him. His body no longer felt any pain, and the yin-yang vortex was also slowly revolving in his body. His magic had also imperceptibly recovered a bit, and the powerful recovery ability of his body had already completely healed his injuries. This feeling of weakness was caused by his yuan qi being damaged. His body barely moved, and immediately, a feeling of weakness spread throughout his body. Thirsty, Ji Dong could not help but groan, and let out a hoarse voice. Ah, you're awake. With a cry of surprise, a slightly haggard and delicate face appeared in front of Ji Dong. Beautiful big eyes, long eyelashes, revealed a joyful expression. Seeing this face, Ji Dong could not help but be stunned. This was actually Lon Bauer, who had participated in the preliminary examination with him in the Heavenly STEM Academy. At this time, Lan Bao was dressed in a tight outfit. Although before entering the holy evil battlefield, Ji Dong had seen her from afar, seeing her up close now was completely different. More than a year had passed, and Lan Bao seemed to have changed a lot. Girls at the age of 16 or 17 would change the most. Her silver hair and purple eyes made her look even more mysterious. She was also of the Gue Water Saint disciple, but she did not have the mysterious and cold feeling of the dark Gue Water Saint disciple, Han Yu. Instead, there was a kind of gentleness like water. Her hair fell down and caressed Ji Dong's face, giving him a ticklish feeling. Water, Ji Dong said in a hoarse voice. Lan Bao hurriedly brought a water bag to his mouth, and carefully let the liquid slowly flow into Ji Dong's throat. The nourishment of the water seemed to awaken his bloodline, and Ji Dong drank more than half of the water bag. When he wanted to continue, Lan Bao had already taken the water bag away and said to him apologetically, "You just woke up, and you haven't eaten for a long time. You can't drink too much water." After taking a deep breath, Ji Dong felt much better. He said, "Thank you, Bao. Where is this place?" He was surrounded by a forest, but it was more like a thicket. Ji Dong could vaguely sense that there were many people around. Lan Bao said, "This is the third level of the holy evil battlefield. That day when Senior Apprentice Brother Fury saved you, you were unconscious for 10 days. Luckily, the wounds on your body healed on their own. Senior Apprentice Brother Fury said that your vitality was damaged and you need to rest well. Don't talk too much and rest for a while more. I'll get you something to eat later." Seeing Lan Bao's concerned expression, Ji Dong's heart warmed slightly. He said, "Have you been taking care of me these past few days?" "Yes." Lan Bao's pretty face blushed as she responded softly. 10 days had actually passed. In other words, he had already been in the holy evil battlefield for 12 to 13 days. Ji Dong asked, "What's the situation like now?" Lan Bao said, "The situation is very good. You don't need to worry. Currently, we have the advantage. Under the leadership of Senior Apprentice Brother Fury, we have won again and again. We have already killed many dark magicians. Senior Apprentice Brother Fury told me to tell you that you don't need to worry when you wake up. Just rest well here. We have gathered many magicians here." "Then where is Senior Apprentice Brother Fury?" "Senior Apprentice Brother Fury has gone to the deeper parts of the holy evil battlefield. However, he will come back every day to check on your situation." Hearing Lan Bao's words, Ji Dong could not help but sigh in his heart. The holy evil battlefield was indeed ever-changing. It was no wonder that the Grandmaster did not allow him to easily enter. His actual combat experience was still too weak. Now that he recalled what Fury had told him, if you are too rigid, you will easily break. Ji Dong's heart gradually began to understand. He was too rigid, which led to him continuously meeting strong enemies. However, he did not regret it. Although his body was currently weak, those few battles had brought him valuable experience and allowed him to comprehend many things. If the same situation were to happen again, he would definitely not repeat the same mistake. "Bao, help me up." You need to rest well." Lan Bao hurriedly shook her head. Ji Dong smiled and said, "I'm fine. Don't worry. Help me up so that I can get better faster." Lan Bao hesitated for a moment before carefully helping Ji Dong to sit up. After not eating for 10 days, coupled with the damage to his vitality, just sitting up made Ji Dong feel dizzy. However, his body was still very strong. After a short period of adaptation, he forced himself to sit cross-legged with Lan Bao's help. After sitting up, Ji Dong realized that he had already changed into a clean set of clothes. The Demon Lord Yin-Yang armor lay quietly beside him. The dirt on it had also been wiped clean. The dirt on his body had completely disappeared. Although he was weak, he felt refreshed. Girls were very sensitive. Seeing Ji Dong look at the clothes on her body, Lan Bao'er's charming face turned slightly red. She hurriedly said, "Your clothes were changed by senior apprentice Brother Fury." "No, it wasn't me." Seeing her bashful appearance, Ji Dong couldn't help but smile and said, "I didn't say it was you. Bao'er, thank you for taking care of me these days." Lan Bao'er hurriedly shook her head and said, "There's no need to thank me. Although we are no longer classmates, we are still comrades. Have you forgotten? You saved my life during the preliminary exam. Taking care of you is something I should do." Ji Dong nodded and said, "Let's not talk about this. Help me prepare something to eat. I will cultivate for a while. After I finish cultivating, I should be able to eat." As he spoke, his heart gradually calmed down and he began to enter a state of cultivation. If he wanted to recover his yuan qi and mana, he had to cultivate. Too much rest was meaningless. His body had already recovered, but it was because he had used too much mana and used a super-ultimate skill that injured his yuan qi. Only by adjusting his mana would he be able to recover as quickly as possible. This was the wholly evil battlefield. He couldn't let others protect him all the time, and he didn't want to be a burden to Fury. Seeing Ji Dong enter a state of cultivation, Lan Bao'er couldn't help but sigh. In the past year, ever since Ji Dong left the academy, she had been diligently cultivating. It could be said that she had forgotten to eat and sleep. However, when she met Ji Dong again, although she hadn't seen how Ji Dong fought, she could clearly feel that the gap between her and Ji Dong had widened. Naturally, Ji Dong didn't know what Lan Bao'er was thinking. As he breathed in and out, he gradually accelerated the yin-yang whirlpool to absorb the fire elements in the air. At the same time, he thought about the gains and losses since entering the wholly evil battlefield. Among all of this, the thing that touched him the most was undoubtedly the super-ultimate skill formed by the combination of the two sovereigns' ultimate skills. That scene had been deeply imprinted in his mind. Now that he thought about it, the details of that scene appeared, making him understand it even more deeply. In particular, he could be sure that the appearance of this super-ultimate skill could be said to be a complete coincidence. Regardless of whether its power had reached the level of a true super-ultimate skill, Ji Dong knew that it wasn't something that could be performed with his own power. The reason why he could complete it was because of the help of the five elements formation. When the two sovereigns' ultimate skills fused, they absorbed all of Ji Dong's mana and even all of Flame's mana. At the same time, they also absorbed all the fire elements in the air. Just before that, Ji Dong had just activated the power of the 4 dragons and 4 snakes to collide with the Platinum Celestial Rock's ultimate skill. Each of the 4 dragons and 4 snakes could be said to be equivalent to more than 50% of his mana. Although they dissipated when they collided with the opponent, the fire elements they possessed still existed in the air. It was because of the absorption of so much mana that the combination of the ultimate skill was able to achieve the effect of a super-ultimate skill. In other words, it was equivalent to the gathering of all the mana of 4 or 5 Ji Dongs. In addition to Flame's mana, the fire elements in the air and the qualitative change that erupted at the moment when the two sovereigns' ultimate skills fused together. Only then did this super-ultimate skill take shape. Ji Dong asked himself, even if he were to recondense the power of the 4 dragons and 4 snakes, he might not be able to unleash that kind of attack. But even so, this experience had undoubtedly opened a door in front of him to comprehend a super-ultimate skill. Without needing to worry about his own safety, Ji Dong devoted himself to the recovery of his mana. The yin-yang vortex had already recovered some mana during his 10 days of sleep. Now that it was operating, the fire elements in the air outside flowed into his body like threads, automatically filtering and replenishing the mana he had consumed. He did not use crystal cores or mana recovery potions to replenish his mana. Although that would allow him to recover faster, it was disadvantageous to the body of a magic master. When one's mana was greatly depleted, the only way to truly consolidate and increase one's cultivation was through cultivation. After an unknown amount of time, the clamor of the outside world roused Ji Dong from his cultivation. At this time, his mana had already recovered by 30%, and he could already start summoning the yin-yang flame to form a spell formation. He opened his eyes. With the recovery of his mana and physical condition, even the outside world seemed to have become clearer. Lan Bauer stood not far from him, looking out of the forest with her brows slightly furrowed. Ji Dong stood up and asked, "What's going on?" Lan Bauer said, "I'm not sure. It seems like someone has come, but it shouldn't be an enemy, because there are no magic waves. To ensure your safety, Senior Brother Fury left 2 6-crowned seniors here, as well as 23rd and 4th crowned seniors." Ji Dong said, "Come, let's go take a look." The two of them walked in the direction of the noise, passing through the forest. After walking for a short distance, they saw 20 magic masters in Heavenly STEM Academy's uniform talking to 7 or 8 people on the other side of the forest. This was where the noise was coming from. "Get out of the way. If you don't get out of the way, don't blame us for being impolite." "Do you know who we are?" said a young man with short golden hair arrogantly. On the Sky Card Academy's side, a middle-aged man in his 40s said in a low voice, "Although I don't know how you entered the holy evil battlefield, we are all from the light faction. Please conduct yourself with dignity. If you really have the ability, you should go to the Dark 5 Elements continent to show off." Seeing the people on the other side, Ji Dong could not help but be slightly stunned. Among these people, there was one he knew. It was the Light First Wood holy disciple, Yao Qianshu, who had entered the underground palace with him and obtained the mystery of the 5 elements spell formation. Looking at Yao Qianshu and the arrogant faces of the people around him, their identity was clear. Speeding up, Ji Dong quickly arrived at the side of the Heavenly STEM Academy's student. Ji Dong saw Yao Qianshu, and Yao Qianshu also saw him at the same time. Yao Qianshu immediately shouted in surprise, "Ji Dong, so you are here? I have been looking for you for a long time." The two of them had fought against strong enemies together, and it could be said that they had gone through life and death together. Ji Dong smiled and said, "You really entered the holy evil battlefield." Yao Qianshu smiled and made a gesture with both hands. Looking at his gesture, Ji Dong immediately understood how these people entered the holy evil battlefield. Without a doubt, these people with Yao Qianshu were the Light Faction's first Wood holy disciples. They could enter this place through the teleportation formation. Needless to say, Ji Dong could guess that there was a teleportation formation on the Holy Evil Island for the Heavenly STEM Holy Disciples to use. From the looks of it, the Dark Continent's Heavenly STEM Holy Disciples really didn't learn about teleportation formations. The Darkwood Holy Disciple, Scorpion, entered through the passage just like him. At this moment, a young man in yellow attire, who looked to be in his 30s, said calmly, "Qianshu, aren't you going to introduce us?" Yao Qianshu frowned slightly, but he still said, "This is our generation's holy disciple, Ji Dong. Ji Dong, this is the Earth holy disciple, Ao Feng, and these are." Before Yao Qianshu could finish, the Earth holy disciple suddenly interrupted. "He is the holy disciple, Bing and Ding holy disciple, Qianshu? Qianshu, you didn't get the wrong person, right?" Even though he had a calm demeanor, he gave off an air of superiority when he spoke. They were both arrogant, but Ji Dong's arrogance was ingrained in his bones, while he was arrogant to the point where he had no one in his eyes. Ji Dong's face turned cold, and Yao Qianshu said with great dissatisfaction, "Ao Feng, watch your words. We, the Heavenly STEM Holy Disciples, are one." Before Ao who could speak, the golden-haired young man who was arrogant earlier already said, "Does he deserve to be one with us? Yao Qianshu, can't you feel how weak the magic aura on his body is? Look at his face, it's like he's completely emptied of wine and women. What holy disciple, and you still have the nerve to say that he's the holy king of this generation. Does he deserve it? How old is he? Has his milk hair grown out?" "Guan Ruo, shut up. Yao Qianshu was furious and said, I think you're the one who hasn't grown out his milk hair yet. Is this how you treat your companions? Guan Ruo sneered and said, You're not convinced? Yao Qianshu, don't forget that you've been defeated by me. Gung metal restrains first wood. I'm not afraid of you. If you're capable, let's fight again. Chapter 157. You. Yao Qianshu was so angry that his hair stood on end, but he could not refute. Obviously, this arrogant golden-haired youth did have considerable strength. Ao Feng said lightly, It seems that the person who used the ultimate skill is not this person. Qianshu, you've made a mistake. Ji Dong looked on coldly. In addition to Yao Qianshu, the 3 men and 4 women in front of him all showed arrogance. The way they looked at him was either contemptuous or disdainful, especially the oldest holy disciple, Ao Feng, who showed obvious hostility. With the improvement of his spiritual force after using the ultimate skill, Ji Dong's observation ability could be said to be penetrating. He carefully observed the changes in everyone's expression from the perspective of a bystander, and he could see a lot of things. With a smile on his face, Ji Dong shook his head at Yao Qianshu and said, You see, I've told you long ago that I'm not a heavenly stem saint, but you didn't believe me. You don't have to put on a cold face in front of me. You're just afraid that I'll fight for the position of Holy King. I'm telling you now, I'm not interested in any Holy King or Holy Disciple. You don't have to worry. From now on, I have nothing to do with you. You can leave. Ji Dong's words were very calm, so calm that the holy disciples in front of him showed a stunned expression. They obviously did not expect that Ji Dong would respond in this way. Yao Qianshu said anxiously, Ji Dong, don't be impulsive, the heavenly stem saint needs you. Ji Dong smiled indifferently and said, You don't have to be impulsive. Why do you have to be stuck in the middle? The 5 elements continent is so vast. Can't you find 3rd fire and 4th fire saint disciples? What's more, you all look powerful. Even without 3rd fire and 4th fire saint disciples, it's nothing. Yao Qianshu wanted to say something, but Ao Feng grabbed his shoulder and sneered. He doesn't admit that he's a holy disciple, what's the point of saying more? You're Ji Dong, right? This is the holy evil island. We won't argue with you for now. When we get out of the holy evil island, we'll find you and take back the fire formation. Only heavenly stem saint disciples can practice the 5 elements formation. Ji Dong smiled coldly and said, Then I'll wait for you. You're worthy to be a saint disciple, you know the big picture and know that we can't kill each other on the evil island. Yao Qianshu looked at Ji Dong apologetically, but at this time, he was 1 against 7, and Ji Dong had clearly expressed his attitude. What's the point of saying more? Watching the 8 heavenly stem saints leave, Ji Dong's eyes gradually turned cold. He didn't know why, but he suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. It was not because of the arrogance of those people just now. Ji Dong didn't think much of them at all, or in other words, he didn't take them seriously at all. With their arrogant appearance, it would be strange if they could achieve great things. His bad feeling was because he had a feeling after coming into contact with the Dark Saint. From the Darkwood Saint Scorpion and the Darkwater Saint Coldrain, he clearly heard both of them mention a boss. At least one thing was certain, the dark heavenly stem saints would not be as scattered as the light saints. It might not be obvious at the moment, but when the strength of both sides increased to a certain level, the coordination of the 5 elements, the combination of extreme magic and other aspects, he was afraid that the current strength comparison would be different. Who are these people? Each and every one of them is so arrogant. What saints, holy kings? Ji Dong, why don't I understand? Lan Bauer said slightly angrily. Ji Dong smiled indifferently. He first nodded apologetically to the 2 6-crowned devil masters from the heavenly stem army before saying, It's nothing, just a group of self-righteous boring people. Don't bother with them. He didn't need anyone to look up to or look down on him. Strength was the best way to prove himself. What the golden-haired youth called Guan Ruo said was not wrong. The current him was still weak, and his magic was far from recovering. Of course, he wouldn't explain anything to those people. He wasn't afraid of a godlike opponent, but he was afraid of a pig-like teammate. Although those light saints should have extreme magic, except for Yao Qianshu, in the eyes of Jidong, they were not even comparable to pigs. It was as if nothing had happened. After returning to the forest, Jidong ate some of the food that Lan Bauer had prepared for him. He immediately released the yin-yang flame to condense a spell formation and began to cultivate. 30% of his magic was enough to support the activation of 2 spell formations at the same time. The yin-yang vortex maintained a state of balance between yin and yang, and his magic recovered at an extremely fast speed. This time, Jidong continued to cultivate for a full 24 hours. Not only did he recover his magic, but he also began to adjust his body when his magic was restored to its optimal state. As the source of power of Jidong's dual magic, although Jidong couldn't directly use the Flame of Chaos, with its existence, Jidong's recovery speed was much faster. He injected more magic into the Flame of Chaos as nutrients, and the Flame of Chaos would automatically emit a layer of chaotic aura. The chaotic aura that could nurture all living things naturally helped Jidong recover his magic. After entering the holy evil battlefield this time, Jidong finally completely recovered his strength after 24 hours of bitter cultivation. He suddenly felt as if he had broken out of his cocoon and become a butterfly. Immersed in his own state of cultivation, Jidong didn't want to end for a long time, because he was immersed in a huge surprise at this time. The first surprise was the increase in his magic. After experiencing life and death this time, his magic directly increased to level 49. Ever since he broke through to level 40, the speed of his magic increase had obviously decreased. He had also just broken through to level 48 not long ago. To be able to break through again in such a short period of time, it could be seen that the release of the ultimate skill had a great impact on his body. He only needed one more step and he would be able to touch the threshold of the Pentacrown. At that time, it would be a qualitative leap. The Pentacrown relied on external forces, the Quadracrown relied on external forces. Then what about the Pentacrown? The increase in magic was only a pleasant surprise, but the biggest surprise was the change in the yin-yang vortex. Originally, the yin-yang vortex was gold and black. The 2 colors of magic mixed into a vortex that continuously revolved around the chaotic flame in Jidong's chest. But now, the yin-yang vortex had a qualitative change. It was no longer liquid magic that revolved there, but a golden-black yin-yang fish that looked like a Tai Chi diagram in the middle of his chest, rotating on its own in a clockwise direction. The chaotic flame was sitting anxiously above the yin-yang fish. Although the yin-yang fish looked full of illusory luster, as if it had returned to its gaseous state, Jidong discovered a huge change. That was, his ultimate yin fire and ultimate yang fire did not show any signs of rejection. It was actually like magic of the same origin, blending and complementing each other. The ultimate skill, the yin-yang boundary of sun and moon, allowed the 2 sovereigns to complete the fusion for the first time. At the same time, it also allowed Jidong's ultimate dual flames to complete the process of fusion in a true sense. This was not only beneficial to his cultivation, as he no longer needed to adjust it through the chaotic fire to improve without any worries. The fusion of the ultimate yin and ultimate yang would also allow Jidong to no longer need to go through the sluggishness of the conversion of magic in the middle when he used the 2 types of magic skills in the future. In other words, in the moment when Jidong used the Flame Monarch magic skill, he could quickly connect it with the Dark Flame Devil's magic skill in the next moment. In this way, in terms of the use of magic skills, there was no doubt that Jidong would reach a new height, and there would no longer be a part of the consumption in the process of conversion between the 2 types of magic. How could such a huge surprise not make Jidong excited? He had always been able to feel the conflict between the two types of magic, especially when his magic power increased. This situation became more obvious, which led to an extremely dangerous situation when ordinary magic masters broke through the second or fourth crown. Ji Dong could not help but worry about what would happen when his magic power increased to a certain level, and that trace of chaotic fire could no longer suppress the two types of magic. Or what would happen if he was able to use more powerful skills, and there was a problem with the conversion of magic power, and it would backfire on him. And at this moment, this problem had finally been completely solved. It was also at this moment that Ji Dong could be said to have become a true dual attribute magic master. In future cultivation, his dual attributes would only complement each other, and increase his strength, far surpassing his peers. There would no longer be any restrictions. He took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. The illusory yin and yang fish rotated, and the inseparable gold and black magic power instantly spread to every corner of his body. Ji Dong's vermilion bird transformation and winged serpent transformation seemed to be undergoing subtle changes, and his whole body produced a growing numb and itchy feeling. Opening his eyes, Ji Dong suddenly stood up and stretched his body with force. Every cell in his body seemed to be moaning in comfort, and his bones constantly made fine sounds like popping beans. A layer of black and gold mixed with light appeared on the surface of his skin, faintly discernible. It was no longer purely domineering or purely cold. At this moment, the aura emitted from his body was a kind of domineering might. "Ji Dong, you've recovered?" Lan Baoer's joyful voice rang out. She was sitting not far away from him, watching over him. Ji Dong smiled and nodded at Lan Baoer, saying, "Thanks, Baoer." Lan Baoer smiled and said, "Didn't you say that we are partners? Is there a need for thanks between partners? At Ji Dong, you seem to have grown a little taller, and your shoulders seem to be wider." Ji Dong was stunned and looked at his own body. He did not feel much, but Lan Baoer felt that it was completely different. In the past, in Lan Baoer's eyes, Ji Dong always gave off an extremely extreme feeling. His temperament changed too quickly, sometimes blazing hot, and sometimes cold, making it hard for people to understand him. However, at this moment, although his appearance was still the same, there was an invisible aura of a powerhouse that she could only see from Fury, the Thunder Emperor. However, he was even more reserved and profound than Fury. After looking at him seriously for a while, Lan Baoer could not help but blush slightly, and her heartbeat accelerated. However, this phenomenon only lasted for a short period of time. This was because in her heart, she suddenly thought of the beautiful figure that danced with Ji Dong, that face that could put everything to shame. In this regard, Lan Baoer could only silently feel sad. Even she did not understand why she would feel such emotions. However, every time she saw Ji Dong, she would feel an indescribable sense of closeness. She hoped that time would wash away everything. However, it had been more than a year since Ji Dong left the Heavenly STEM Academy. This time, when they met again, the feeling in her heart seemed to have become even stronger. Vaguely, Ji Dong also felt that his body seemed to have undergone some subtle changes after the yin-yang whirlpool turned into the yin-yang fish, but he did not pay much attention to it. He smiled and said, "I'm at the age of puberty. It's normal for my body to have some changes. Did senior brother come back?" Lan Baoer said, "Last night, he came back to see you. Seeing that you were awake, senior brother Fury was very happy. He only told you to take care of your body, and he immediately left. I think I heard him say that he seemed to have encountered some trouble, and was preparing to besiege a very valuable magical beast. I also heard senior brother Fury mention something about a divine weapon." Ji Dong said, "Then did senior brother Fury say where exactly it is?" Lan Baoer said, "I can confirm this. It should be on the 8th floor of the Holy Evil Island, relatively close to where we are." Ji Dong did a simple calculation. With the flying ability of the Purple Thunder Heavenly Dragon, and considering the fact that the distance would decrease as one went deeper into the Holy Evil Island, it would take at least 2 hours for Fury to rush back. The Holy Evil battlefield had already been opened for more than 10 days, and the battle should have reached a climax. Even under such circumstances, Senior Brother still came to see him every day. How could Ji Dong hold him back? His mana had completely recovered. On this Holy Evil Island that was full of dangers and opportunities, how could he just wait here? Bauer, I want to go find Senior Brother. Lon Bauer smiled and said, I already knew when you asked me about this. It seems that you have completely recovered. Senior Brother Fury asked me to look after you. You can go, but you must take me with you. Don't refuse. You said that we are partners. Since we are partners, how can we not act together? I'm no longer the rookie Lon Bauer from a year ago. I won't hold you back. Ji Dong frowned. Bauer, you should know how dangerous the Holy Evil Island is. A magical beast that even Senior Brother has to be cautious about is definitely not lower than the 9th rank. I don't want you to take the risk. Lon Bauer didn't say anything, she only looked at Ji Dong with a stubborn gaze. Seeing her like this, Ji Dong couldn't help but shake his head. All right, let's go. Chapter 158. The people that Fury left in the 3rd layer of the Holy Evil Island were not only to protect Ji Dong, but also to serve as the rear of the Heavenly Stem Legion. Ji Dong and Lon Bauer bid farewell to the magicians who were guarding here and went straight to the depths of the Holy Evil Island. After leaving the small forest, Ji Dong found that the terrain of the 3rd layer of the Holy Evil Island was different from the 2nd layer. It was almost full of small hills. Between the hills there were often forests or bushes. For Ji Dong, this kind of terrain was better than the Great Prairie. At least, it was much easier to hide in this kind of terrain, unlike the boundless Great Prairie where there was no cover. Of course, his mentality now was different from when he had just entered the Holy Evil Island. Just like the yin-yang fish that had merged with his mana, although his arrogance had increased again, the aura that he revealed on the surface was much more restrained. After putting on the Demon Lord Yin-yang armor again, Ji Dong was surprised to find that the armor on his body had a layer of faint aura. It was different from the original pure fire attribute magic, but it was a very restrained fluctuation. When he put on the Demon Lord Yin-yang armor, he could clearly feel that the absorption speed of the magic in the outside world had increased a bit. Compared to the defense, the Demon Lord Yin-yang armor was more important for him to condense magic. Lon Bauer followed beside Ji Dong. At this time, she was also wearing a light purple armor. Just like Ji Dong's Demon Lord Yin-yang armor, she was also wearing a light purple armor. She did not have a mask, but a beautiful headband. Her long hair was tied up so that it did not fall in front of her face. Coupled with her silver hair and purple eyes, she was so beautiful that it was unforgettable. Even Ji Dong did not expect that Lon Bauer had become such a beauty in just a year. Although she could not be compared to the Flaming Bar, she was definitely one of the best women Ji Dong had seen. Even her temperament was not worse than that of the Dark Imu Saint, Scorpion. However, Scorpion was like a blooming wild rose with thorns, while Lon Bauer was like a pure and gentle lily. They each had their own advantages. Lon Bauer followed closely behind Ji Dong. Her speed was not slow at all. Ji Dong chose to travel through the valleys. As long as the direction was right, he would rather take a slight detour than directly climb those hills. The 3rd layer of the Holy Evil Island did not have more magical beasts than the 2nd layer, but the quality was much better. Along the way, the two encountered many magical beasts. They would avoid them if they could. If they couldn't, Ji Dong would immediately kill them with lightning speed. After killing a magical beast, he would immediately change directions with Lon Bauer, not giving other magical beasts a chance to track them. They also paid attention to hiding themselves. There were no magical beasts below rank 4 here. Although they did not encounter any strong magical beasts like the Devil Tungsten Vulture King, it still took them a lot of time to move forward. It took them 2 hours to reach the border between the third and fourth layer of the Holy Evil Island. Ji Dong stopped in the middle of a thicket. His hands, which were wearing the solar-lunar dual radiance gloves, quickly cleared out an area in the thicket. He sat down with Lan Bao. From the outside, it would be difficult to discover their presence. Bao, let's rest for a while and recover the magical energy we used before entering the fourth layer. Lan Bao nodded. I've heard from the teachers that the deeper we go, the stronger the magical beasts become. Ji Dong, can we really enter the 8th layer? Ji Dong replied, we'll try our best. If we can't, then we'll retreat. Don't worry, I'll protect you. Lan Bao smiled sweetly. I've already said that I won't drag you down, at least not in the first 5 layers. The 4th layer should also be home to Class 4 magical beasts, but they're mainly social ones. The 2nd layer should be home to Class 3 magical beasts. The 1st layer should be home to Class 3 magical beasts, while the 2nd layer should be home to Class 3 magical beasts, and so on. The 8th layer should be home to Class 6 magical beasts. I don't understand why Senior Fury and the others would run into trouble there. Ji Dong smiled bitterly. What you've said is only for the majority of each layer. It doesn't represent everything. When I was on the 1st layer, I ran into a Class 5 man-eating troll. On the 2nd layer, I ran into a Class 7 Platinum Sky Rock and a Class 5 Demon Tungsten Vulture King. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been in such a difficult situation. Lan Bao's eyes widened in shock. Something like that can happen? Ji Dong said, I've thought about it carefully. This situation shouldn't be a common occurrence. For high-class magical beasts to appear in the outer layers, it's very likely that they've come out to hunt. After all, hunting magical beasts of the same level is far too difficult. Coming out to hunt is very normal. Of course, what happened with the Platinum Sky Rock was an accident. In the 4th layer, we'll have to be especially careful. If we run into a Class 7 magical beast, or even a Class 7 magical beast, it'll be very troublesome. If I'm not wrong, the magical beast Senior Fury and the others ran into on the 8th layer should be a powerful magical beast that surpasses the normal magical beasts in the territory. With Senior Fury's strength and his violet heavenly lightning dragon, it should be a Class 9 magical beast at the very least for him to take seriously. Class 9. Lan Bao exclaimed in a low voice. It was important to know that when comparing a demon master and a magical beast, there was usually a difference of 1 class. In other words, a 1-crown demon master could deal with a Class 2 magical beast, and a Class 9 magical beast was equivalent to an 8-crown demon master. Of course, for a demon master like Ji Dong who possessed extreme mana, this comparison was not applicable. He had killed a Class 7 magical beast with 4 crown demon masters. This in itself was an extremely abnormal situation. Ji Dong waved his hands at the same time. With a flash of light, 2 little burning men, 1 black and 1 gold, quietly appeared. It was the elemental body summoning. The 2 elemental bodies that were summoned for the first time were completely swallowed and fused by the terrifying mana when Ji Dong used his ultimate technique. But before that, Ji Dong had fully experienced the use of these elemental bodies. They were almost equivalent to 2 ordinary 4-crown demon masters, and they were completely under his control. As soon as the sacred fire elemental body and the demon flame elemental body appeared, they immediately wriggled and shot up, landing on each of Ji Dong's shoulders. Contrasting with the sinister mask on his face, they seemed even more mysterious. What is this? It's so chubby, so cute. Lan Bao's eyes were obviously shining like stars. Ji Dong was speechless for a while and said, This is a kind of magic skill of mine, elemental body summoning. It can help me attack. Lan Bao blinked and said, If only I also had such a magic skill. Ji Dong smiled and did not say anything. He closed his eyes and rested, quickly recovering the mana that he had previously consumed. How important was it to always maintain the peak state? After the previous experience, he had fully understood. Although there was no time for him to replenish the power of the 4 dragons and 4 snakes, he had to try his best to maintain the best state to face unknown dangers. This was an important experience he had gained this time. After the 2 rested for about a quarter of an hour, their mana was fully recovered, and they once again stepped into the range of the 4th layer of the Holy Evil Island. The terrain of the 4th layer was slightly different from the 3rd layer. It looked obviously a bit flatter, but there were giant rocks everywhere. Many of the giant rocks had obvious marks left behind by humans, as if they had been chiseled by knives and axes, or had obvious traces of corrosion or explosions. The good luck of not encountering any trouble on the 3rd layer finally came to an end on the 4th layer. The 2 entered the 4th layer for less than half an hour, and just as the 5th layer was in sight, Ji-dong suddenly felt a burst of pressure from the side, and immediately pulled Lan Bao. "Be careful, there might be a situation." The 2 looked at each other, and released their yin-yang crown at the same time. They had not seen each other for more than a year, and this was the first time Ji-dong saw Lan Bao's current strength. On the black yin-yang crown, there were impressively 4 crowns and 1 star. Unexpectedly, her mana was at level 42. It should be known that when Ji-dong rose from level 20 to level 30, it was because of the vermilion bird transformation, and he had the dual attribute condensing formation, that his cultivation speed was so fast. However, Lan Bao did not have these advantages. In just a little more than a year, she not only broke through the barrier of 3 crowns, but also broke through to 4 crowns. One could imagine how much effort she had put in the past year, and her talent had also exceeded Ji-dong's expectations. Lan Bao looked at Ji-dong's somewhat strange expression and giggled, saying, "Surprised? To be able to enter the 8th yin-yang hall, I also relied on my own ability. I am innately of the water attribute, and under the guidance of the seniors, after entering the yin-yang hall, it can be said that I have made rapid progress. Most importantly, you left a deep impression on me, and I don't want to fall too far behind you." Only she knew how much effort she had put in the past year behind this simple smile. Lan Bao was only 1 year older than Ji-dong, and she and that little girl, Lung Yu, had already become the most important targets of the Gue Water School's nurturing. Just as the 2 of them were talking, there was a light whoosh, and a huge creature leaped out from a thicket not far in front of them. Its fiery red fur was extremely dazzling, and its body was more than 4 meters long, with a shoulder height of 1.8 meters. Its huge head was surrounded by a circle of long, dark brown fur, which made it very dignified. It was actually a Class 5 Flaming Lion magical beast. Although compared to Huang Liming's Flaming Lion King mount, its rank was lower by 1, but as the king of beasts, this Flaming Lion was also a powerful Class 5 magical beast. Seeing the Flaming Lion, Fu Dong and Lan Bao's expressions changed. It should be known that this kind of wild lion-type magical beast would not move alone, and would always move in groups. As expected, the Flaming Lion suddenly raised its hand and let out a deafening roar. Dazzling red light bloomed, as if every strand of fur could spit out fire. In the thicket that he had leaped out from, a lioness with blue fur but no lion's mane slowly walked out. Her cold eyes revealed a fierce look. Impressively, they were of the 4th fire attribute. There were as many as 13 lionesses. Although their auras could not be compared to the leading Class 5 male lion, each of them had at least the aura of a Class 4. Lan Bao took a step forward and got close to Ji-dong's body. She said, "What should we do? Should we stay or leave?" Ji-dong said in a deep voice, "Let's fight side by side. Be careful, and don't be more than 10 meters away from me." "Okay." Without further communication, Lan Bao agreed. She took a step forward and slightly opened up the distance between her and Ji-dong. Although the 2 had a good relationship, their magic was incompatible like fire and water. Their auras would be affected to a certain extent, so she had to open up a little distance. With Ji-dong's ultimate dual fire magic, it was obvious that she would be the one affected. A total of 14 powerful giant flaming lions had already begun to move. The lion at the front did not move. It only let out deafening roars and released its third fire magic continuously, releasing a strong magic aura. The 13 lionesses, on the other hand, slowly spread out and circled to both sides. The eyes of every giant flaming lion were firmly fixed on Ji Dong and Lan Bao. The reason why Ji Dong decided to fight instead of retreat was naturally because he had his own plans. Although the 14 magical beasts in front of him were strong, they were all fire-type magical beasts. His ultimate dual fire was very strong in suppressing this element. It could be said that he was the king of fire. Therefore, although these magical beasts were strong and were the kings of beasts, in reality, it was difficult for them to pose a threat. The rich fire element in the air would not consume too much of his energy. If he retreated, he could only leave with the vermilion bird's wings. If he did that, he might be attacked by the magical skills of these giant flaming lions. The long-range magical skills of 4th and 5th level magical beasts were already quite powerful. Very soon, the 13 lionesses had completed the encirclement. They eyed each other covetously and approached the center at the same time. Magical beasts like lions had always been in group. Usually, the lionesses would hunt. Only when they encountered a truly strong opponent would the male lion make a move. These 4th-level lionesses should not be underestimated. They must be very cooperative with each other. With a soft swoosh, the huge vermilion bird's wings had already spread out from behind Ji Dong. Just as the lionesses were about to attack, a glaring golden flame suddenly erupted and turned into a surging golden flame that shot into the sky. The timing that Ji Dong had chosen could be said to be perfect. It was just the crucial moment when these lionesses were about to launch their Yin chakra attack. Their skills were already on the bow and had to be released. Just as their skills were about to be released, the suppression of the ultimate Yang fire element instantly enveloped them with a destructive force. The 13 lionesses cried out in pain at the same time. 13 blue flames shot out at the same time. However, the pitiful flames were only sparks. They did not seem to be as powerful as a first-level magical beast's attack. This was the grasp of opportunity. If a magician was about to make a move, but his heart collapsed first, how much magic power could he exert? Chapter 159. The yin-yang crown on Ji Dong's head burst into a golden flame that was 1 meter tall. The 4 crown brands shone even brighter. Behind him, the black and gold yin-yang fish quietly appeared. As it spun slightly, the yang fire formation had already formed on the yin-yang fish. This was a situation that even Ji Dong did not expect. He was just about to use his magic to release the formation, but just as he thought about it, the yin-yang fish that appeared behind him had already helped him complete all of this. The 13 lionesses were instantly suppressed by the king's pride and the yang fire that exploded from Ji Dong's body. Their attacks did not pose any threat at all. A cold snort came from Ji Dong's mouth. In the next moment, 13 dazzling golden lights had already shot out from his fingertip. Using the yang fire aura to create pressure, the lionesses had already launched their attacks. They were suffering from the suppression of their attributes, and at the most painful moment, Ji Dong's attack had already arrived in front of them. The 13 golden lights were not huge. Each of them looked like the size of a palm. As they flew out, they were shaped like scales, but they emitted a dazzling golden light that was as bright as the sun. The 13 lionesses were dazzled by the light. They had just gotten used to the suppression of their attributes, but in an instant, their strength had almost doubled. They had also just released their skills. This was the time when the yang power had just dissipated and the new power had yet to be regenerated. Ji Dong's seemingly simple attack had grasped every change on the battlefield. Roar! The male lion had already clearly felt that something was wrong. The dazzling third fire suddenly shot out behind him. Although he also felt the strong suppression of the yang fire, at this moment, he displayed the elegance that a male should have. He shot towards Ji Dong like a cannonball. His body was still in midair, but his fur had already stood up. The muscles all over his body swelled, and his originally 4-meter-long body swelled to a length of 5 meters and a height of more than 2 meters. Every muscle could be seen clearly. He opened his huge mouth and went straight for Ji-dong's chest. Boom, 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 boom. 13 thunderous booms rang out at the same time, and all 13 lionesses were sent flying back in a miserable wail. They were sent flying at least 5 meters away. The dazzling golden flame broke through their fire with an overwhelming advantage, and golden flames rose from the bodies of every lioness. Although the extreme yang fire did not have the ability to burn for a long time, the intense third Wu primordial yang holy fire had already seriously injured them. As if he did not see the male lion pouncing towards him, Ji-dong flicked his fingers again. Another 13 scale-like light flew out. Without wasting any dragon scale flash, he turned into a stream of light and chased the 13 lionesses. At the same time, Ji-dong did not retreat. He took a step forward with his left foot and directly punched towards the lion's head. It was Scorching Sun's Devour. As the first monarch skill that he had comprehended, Ji-dong's Scorching Sun's Devour could be said to have been practiced hundreds and thousands of times. At this moment, when he punched out, all the yang fire that erupted from his body instantly converged and gathered on his right fist. The Devil Lord Yin Yang armor's gauntlet made a clanging sound and 3 sharp spikes popped out. Ji-dong's fist, which was wearing the Sun and Moon dual radiance gloves, also turned completely golden at this moment. Compared to before, his control of mana had increased by a whole level. Boom! A strange scene appeared. The menacing flaming lion pounced towards Ji-dong with incomparable force, but its body was forcibly stopped in front of Ji-dong's right fist. The spikes on the Devil Lord Yin Yang armor pierced through its head, and at the same time, the third fire on the flaming lion's body was instantly extinguished. It was not extinguished because it had been attacked, but because it had been completely suppressed by Ji-dong's ultimate yang fire. A Class 4 Demon Master had the strength of a Class 5 magical beast, not to mention that Ji-dong's mana had already reached level 49. Furthermore, he was an ultimate dual-fire demon master. In a direct confrontation, how could this flaming lion be his opponent? After the enlightenment from the previous crisis, Ji-dong's various skills had already shown signs of merging into one. His strength had increased yet again. His body, which had been soaked in dragon blood, burst forth with a great amount of power. When his fist landed on the flaming lion's head, he actually did not retreat at all. Pulling back his right fist, Ji-dong lowered his right shoulder and slammed into the flaming lion, whose entire body had been instantly dyed gold. Scorching Sun's collapse, Scorching Sun's explosion, these 2 ultimate skills followed one after the other. When the last golden pillar of fire shot into the sky, the dignified Class 5 flaming lion's body had actually turned into ashes in an instant, leaving behind only a sparkling Class 5 third fire core. It was also at this time that the 13 dragon scales that had flown out the second time had completely landed on the bodies of the female lion. The 13 balls of golden flames were like a huge pillar of fire in the center, instantly exploding, causing everything within a 100-meter radius to be dyed gold. Taking a deep breath, the golden light on Ji-dong's body quietly retracted. The spikes on his arm also retracted back into the Demon Lord Yin Yang armor. His gaze was very calm, as if he had done something that could not be more ordinary. With a wave of his hand, he grabbed the Class 5 core. His figure flashed, and the remaining 13 Class 4 fire cores were also put into his bag. From the beginning to the end, Lon Bauer was just a simple spectator. From the start of Ji-dong's attack to the end, it had only been 3 breaths of time. All the 14 magical beasts that she had seen as relatively strong had been completely obliterated. Moreover, it seemed like Ji-dong had only used a few simple skills, but his domineering aura had caused Lon Bauer to deeply feel that the moment he attacked, there was no way to resist at all. Strong, majestic, the current him was really like a king that controlled the world. Returning to Lan Baoer's side, Ji Dong discovered that she was looking at him strangely. What's wrong? Baoer, why are you looking at me like that? At this time, Lan Baoer let out a long breath and said, Ji Dong, you are really too strong. I have only felt that kind of pressure from senior brother Fury. I did not expect that after not seeing you for a year, you have actually become so strong to such an extent. Ji Dong smiled slightly, patted Lan Baoer's shoulder, and said, Practice hard. You can do the same. These lions are just restrained by my attribute. Let's go. I did not use much magic power. We are almost at the 5th level. Our speed seems to be a little slow, so we need to speed up. Otherwise, we will not be able to reach the 8th level before dark. As he said that, his body had already shot out, following behind Ji Dong. Lan Baoer looked at the man in front of her, who was becoming more and more imposing, and could not help but be a little dazed. She did not know whether it was because Ji Dong was good at hiding, but the rest of the journey was relatively peaceful. When they encountered strong magical beasts or groups of magical beasts, Ji Dong chose to avoid them as much as possible. He had 2 elemental bodies to scout the way, and with his own acute sense of magic aura, he passed through the 5th and 6th levels relatively peacefully. Although they had fought a few times, they were all ordinary magical beasts that did not pose any threat to the 2 of them. Lan Baoer did not even have a chance to attack. The terrain of the 5th and 6th levels was different from the terrain before them. The 5th level was a wetland and the path was muddy. Similar to the 3rd level, there were also many small hills in the middle of the wetland. However, the 6th level was completely different. The mountains had become taller, and they were already real mountains. They had to climb over the mountains to advance. Fortunately, these mountains were only 500 or 600 meters tall. On the 7th level, there were still mountains in front of them, but the peaks were already connected to the cloud. They were at least 1,000 meters tall. After entering the 7th floor, Ji Dong and Lan Baoer became even more careful. This was the territory of Class 6 magical beasts, and Class 6 magical beasts lived in groups. Once Class 6 magical beasts reached Class 6, their strength would differ greatly from that of Class 5 magical beasts. Although it was not a Class 7 magical beast, it was still quite powerful. It was already noon, but unfortunately, the holy evil island was covered in dark clouds, and there was no sign of the sun. The 6th level of the holy evil island had already exceeded the limits of Lan Baoer's strength, but she was not worried at all. Following by Ji Dong's side, she felt a strong sense of security. Reality had also proven that Ji Dong's strength was enough to protect her. Lan Baoer stood silently on a small hill with a huge boulder beside her. Not far away from her, Ji Dong stood calmly. In front of Ji Dong, a huge, ice-blue wolf stared at him, but it did not attack. The ice-blue color could not be mistaken for a water-type wolf. The 5-meter-long wolf was a Class 6 Fuhua series magical beast. This was the 3rd Class 6 magical beast that Ji Dong and Lan Baoer had encountered after entering the 7th level of the Holy Evil Island. The wolf in front of them should be called an underworld demonic wolf. It was most proficient in ambushing, and its strength was incomparably strong. Unfortunately, it was discovered by Ji Dong's keen sense of the fire element, and was drawn out. At this moment, Lan Baoer could see the difference between a Class 5 and a Class 6 magical beast. When facing the flaming lion, the lion had charged forward without fear of death, but the Class 6 underworld demonic wolf was clearly much calmer. Furthermore, it looked at Ji Dong with an uncertain gaze. Although Ji Dong did not release his own magical energy, the sharp senses of a Class 6 magical beast had already made it feel danger. The vermilion bird wings on Ji Dong's back retracted. Through the mask, only his blood-red eyes could be seen. Facing the underworld demonic wolf, he was much more cautious than when facing a Class 5 magical beast. He slowly walked forward step by step, and did not release his magical energy. He only gradually approached the opponent. A low growl constantly came from the underworld demonic wolf's mouth. It wanted to retreat, but it seemed unwilling to retreat at the same time. It continued to growl, and blue flames rose. With a hissing sound, the underworld demonic wolf's body became a transparent blue, completely covered by the flames. A Class 6 magical beast was equivalent to a 5-crown magus, and after a magus broke through to 5-crown, there would be a change in their elemental body. Their body would fuse with the magical energy that they belonged to, expelling impurities, and becoming purer. Not only would their magical energy increase, their ability to sense the magical energy between heaven and earth would also greatly increase. Even if they did not cultivate, their body would automatically absorb the magical energy in the air, so their magical energy would not decline. A cold light flashed. Ji Dong had already made his move. His body shot out like a cannonball. In that instant, the Jun Mo Yin Yang armor and the Vermilion Bird inner armor all turned black. Extreme Yin fire quietly appeared, but it was completely contained. His entire person looked like an assassin in the dark night. The Yin Yang fish and the black Yin crown also appeared. Ever since he had the Yin Yang fish, it seemed to have become Ji Dong's totem. It would appear by itself in place of the two sovereigns. The Yin fire condensed into a formation and quietly branded itself on it. The current him was like a cold demon king that had descended into the human world. The distance between him and the underworld demonic wolf was instantly shortened. With a low growl, the underworld demonic wolf's eyes flashed with fear. The suppression of its attributes finally made it firm its decision. Its 4 limbs moved, and it did not have the slightest intention of attacking Hyoheim. It did not even turn around, but its body had already exploded backwards. It wanted to run. Run? Can't be that easy. A cold light flashed in Ji Dong's eyes. His originally extremely fast body suddenly curled up in midair. Following that, his body suddenly expanded, and his speed increased by at least 3 times. In the blink of an eye, he had already caught up to the underworld demonic wolf. His right hand swung out, and a deep black flame clawed at the underworld demonic wolf. It was the Dark Moon Claw. The underworld demonic wolf made a strange response. Its retreating body actually stood up in midair, and at the same time twisted its body in midair. Not only did it dodge Ji Dong's Dark Moon Claw, it also instantly swept out with one of its claws. Fire condensed, and it directly slammed down on Ji Dong's shoulder. This Class 6 magical beast actually seemed to know how to use technique. However, it was facing a human, the most intelligent of all creatures, and the inheritor of the 2 sovereigns of the core world. Facing the underworld demonic wolf's reaction, Ji Dong's body tilted slightly, and the vermilion bird wings on his right suddenly slammed against the ground. His body spun in midair, and his entire body began to spin violently like a spinning top. The cold black flames instantly turned into the shape of a flying serpent, and just like that, it began to spin along with his body. This skill was the Dark Flame Devil King's fatal skill. It appeared at the same time as the Flame Sovereign's fatal skill, the Scorching Sun Spiral. The only difference was that the Scorching Sun Spiral was from the ground to the sky, while the Demonic Flame Drill was a horizontal charge. Both of them were supreme skills that combined both offense and defense. After this moment of enlightenment, Ji Dong had fused the demonic skill that the Flying Serpent had taught him with the Demonic Flame Drill, causing the originally pure demonic flames to transform into the form of a flying serpent. This increased the power of the fatal skill, and when it was used in this situation, it immediately produced an extremely powerful effect. The first thing that the demonic flame drill did was to increase the speed of Ji Dong's body for the 3rd time in midair, and the terrifying effect of the attack exploded in an instant. The underworld demonic wolf's reaction was extremely fast. Its claws had already changed the moment Ji Dong's figure changed. The claws instantly doubled in size, and became even more crystalline and transparent. Its bones seemed to have softened, and it changed its direction to attack Hyoheim again. Unfortunately, it had met with Ji Dong's self-created skill. Its huge claws were immediately repelled when they came into contact with the black flames of the demonic flame drill, and at the same time, the black flames followed it like a venomous snake. Chapter 160. The underworld demonic wolf could not care less about its claws being stained by Ding Si's underworld spiritual fire, as it was facing an even greater danger. Ji Dong's demonic flame drill was already in front of it, and it could only raise its two hind claws to block as much as possible. At the same time, it released all of its mana without holding back. But who knew that at this moment, Ji Dong's attack changed again. His rapidly spinning body suddenly stopped without warning. The underworld demonic wolf was preparing to withstand the attack with all its might, but the attack did not arrive. The feeling of using the wrong strength immediately caused the fire on its body to surge, and its body also became sluggish in midair. What made it even more shocked was that Ji Dong had disappeared. Where did Ji Dong go? At this moment, he had already silently appeared behind the underworld demonic wolf. The benchmark technique that was much weaker than the demonic flame drill, the dark moon claw, was quietly waved, and swept past the underworld demonic wolf's waist without any resistance. What were the characteristics of a wolf? The waist was the biggest weakness of a wolf. The reason why Ji Dong could instantly appear behind it was naturally because of the flying serpent flash. In the first acceleration, he had only used the flying serpent flash once. At this moment, he changed his body again and naturally used the second flash. This seemingly simple dark moon claw instantly caused the extreme Een fire to completely suppress the underworld demonic wolf's mana. The blue elemental body that was covered by the fire was not only broken, but its entire body was also stained with a thick layer of black, and its entire body was completely stiff in midair. What happened next caused Lon Bauer, who had seen Ji Dong's strength many times, to exclaim once again. The originally pitch-black color of Ji Dong's body instantly turned into a brilliant gold, and the profoundness also turned into a blazing dominance. He punched out with his right fist, and the scorching sun devour once again heavily struck the underworld demonic wolf's waist. The ultimate dual fire combination skill was produced. This was also the first combination skill that Ji Dong had used. With a loud bang and a powerful explosion, the black color of the underworld demonic wolf's body was replaced by gold. The terrifying explosive force caused its huge body to tremble violently, but it was still fixed in midair, unable to move. At this moment, Ji Dong's body changed again, turning the gold color back to black. It was still the simplest dark moon claw that quietly slashed across the underworld demonic wolf's body. In reality, to a Class 6 magical beast, Ji Dong's most basic dark moon claw was not very powerful. It could only rely on the attribute of the ultimate Een flames to produce an effect. However, if the dark moon claw was used together with the ultimate Yang flames, the effect would be completely different. The explosive power of the combination skill appeared for the second time, forcefully changing the gold color of the underworld demonic wolf's body to gold again. The ultimate Een flames changed to ultimate Yang flames for the third time, followed by the scorching sun collapse. Afterwards, the dark moon claw flew out, and the scorching sun explosion followed closely. All 6 attacks combined only took 3 breaths of time, but the underworld demonic wolf's body went through 6 changes. Black, gold, black, gold, black, gold, black, gold. When the scorching sun explosion and the terrifying pillar of fire shot into the sky, the Class 6 magical beast was no different from the flaming lion from before. Its body exploded in the ultimate Yang flames, and not a single residue was left behind. Only 2 balls of light shot into the sky. Lon Bauer had just cried out in surprise when she quickly covered her mouth. However, the shock in her eyes did not diminish in the slightest. What kind of effect had the 6 consecutive attacks produced? That was a combination of 5 attacks. The 5 ultimate dual flames combination skill. Even if it was the most basic skill, the power of the combined attack would definitely surpass any of Ji Dong's sure-kill skills. Let alone a underworld demonic wolf, even a Class 7 Platinum Sky Rock would not be able to withstand all 6 attacks. Its final outcome would not be much better than the underworld demonic wolf. Everything that happened in front of him was Ji Dong's greatest gain after comprehending the yin-yang fish. He had achieved the most powerful attack with the least amount of magical qi. Ever since he and Lan Bauer set off this time, they had already killed dozens of magical beasts. The weakest was Class 4 and the strongest was Class 6. However, Ji Dong had not used the Hopper skill even once. The sure-kill skills like the Brilliant Sun All and the Ice of Flames were powerful, but the magical qi consumed by any one of them was equivalent to the sum of 10 hit skills. Ji Dong relied on the skills he already had to recombine them. The Scorching Sun Triple Strike was dispersed by him and combined with the Dark Moon Claw. Although he only added the Dark Moon Claw, the Dark Moon Claw's effect of slowing down the opponent, as well as the effect of the combination skill between Ultimate Yang Fire and Ultimate Yin Fire, increased the power of the attack by many times. This was Ji Dong's first attempt. What made him the happiest was that when the 6-layered combination skill was completed, he could clearly feel that the explosive effect of the Scorching Sun Triple Strike did not weaken at all. Instead, as the combination skill continued to explode, the superimposed power was unleashed. 6 consecutive strikes, this was completed in the blink of an eye. Even though Ji Dong could feel that he had only grasped the embryonic form of this 6-layered combination skill and had not truly perfected it into a new skill, this was undoubtedly a good start. Raising his hands, just as Ji Dong caught the 2 items that fell from the air, Lan Bauer could not help but ask, "Can you tell me, what skill did you just use?" Ji Dong muttered, "That is the combination of my own standard skill and hit skills. The opponent that is hit by my 6-layered combo will seem to be under an endless curse. They will not rest until they die. Let's call it the 6-layered killing curse." 6-layered killing curse? What a domineering name. Ji Dong, don't tell me that you just created this skill? Lan Bauer looked at Ji Dong as if she was looking at a monster. Ji Dong shook his head and said, "That's not it. It was the embryonic form that I thought of last night, but it was the first time I used it. I didn't expect it to actually be completed." He was able to use the 6-fold curse, of course, it was his own understanding, but the most important thing was the yin-yang fish behind him. Without the complete fusion of the 2 sovereigns' ultimate magic power, how could he instantly transform Yang Fire and Yin Fire, and naturally, it would be impossible to complete such an attack. When he first used the ultimate dual fire combination skill, he released the dual magic at the same time when he used the combination skill. The Yin Fire in his left hand and the Yang Fire in his right hand could also produce the effect of the combination skill. However, at that time, whether it was the left hand or the right hand, he could only use half of the power, and he was also restrained by the Yin and Yang attribute. The effect of the combination skill was not comparable to what he was seeing now. Previously, when Ji Dong launched the 3rd layer of the 6-layered killing curse, the Netherworld demonic wolf was actually already dead. He just wanted to completely complete this skill and feel the profound meaning in it, so he used it completely. The consumption of magic was not much, and it could even be said to be pitifully little. This was the most terrifying part of the 6-layered killing curse. In terms of power, the Bright Sun Cone and the Ice of Flames were not much weaker than it, but in terms of magic consumption, the difference was too great. At this time, more things were flashing in Ji Dong's mind. The 6-layered killing curse was just the beginning. If he added other skills after this 6-layered killing curse, as long as his magic could be maintained, then the attack could naturally continue, and the superposition effect would naturally increase exponentially. Last night? What's the difference between that and thinking about it now? Ji Dong, this time I realize that you really are a monster. It seems that I will never be able to catch up to your footstep. Lan Bauer sighed softly, and there was a sense of loss in her expression. Ji Dong smiled and said, "In fact, my six-layered killing curse itself is not difficult. The difficulty lies in the attribute. After I was seriously injured this time, I have been thinking about how to increase the attack power while consuming as little magic as possible. It seems that I have found a shortcut. I hope that my six-layered killing curse can also make you have an epiphany. In fact, the magic skills of the same attribute cannot be connected without the heart. Just like my scorching sun triple strike, the key point is how you can make the opponent be hit every time you attack, and how you can completely defeat the opponent in the continuous attack. Think about it carefully." Lan Bauer nodded. Listening to Ji Dong's words, coupled with the deep impression that the six-tier killing curse had left in her heart, she seemed to have grasped something. Self-created demonic techniques were top-notch existences in the world of demon masters. Everyone wanted to create their own, but there were only a few who could actually create a useful demonic technique. Every time a self-created demonic technique brought enlightenment, the demon master's own understanding of their own element would take a step forward. Seeing that Lan Bauer was deep in thought, Ji Dong was not in a hurry to continue forward. As he recovered the magic that he had consumed previously, he opened his palm and looked at it. If the netherworld demonic wolf had only left behind one item after its death, he wouldn't have even looked at it. He would have directly stored it in his vermilion bird bracelet because it would definitely be the netherworld demonic wolf's crystal core. However, the netherworld demonic wolf had clearly left behind two items. What could the other item be? It should be known that that item had not been burnt by his ultimate dual flames. The thing that appeared in his hand was a fist-sized 6th-grade fire crystal core. Ji Dong did not pay much attention to it and directly put it into his bracelet. However, the other thing that appeared made him interested. It was a pure white jade tablet without any impurities. There were a few ancient seal characters on the jade tablet. Ji Dong looked at it carefully and recognized that it was written, "Deity Slayer." Deity Slayer? So arrogant? What does that mean? Ji Dong looked at the jade tablet in his hand doubtfully, not understanding what it meant. Lan Bauer was awakened by his voice. When she saw the jade tablet in Ji Dong's hand, she could not help but exclaim, "Is this the jade of heaven?" Although she was not sure, her previously depressed mood had clearly become excited. Even her body was trembling a little. Jade of heaven? What is that? Ji Dong handed the jade tablet to Lan Bauer. Lan Bauer took it in her hand and looked at it carefully. The jade tablet was in the shape of a cupboard. Apart from the 3 seal characters of Deity Slayer on the outside, there were no other patterns or marks. The body was extremely smooth, and it felt comfortable to the touch. It even felt a little warm. Lan Bauer did not directly answer Ji Dong's question. She carefully activated a trace of Gui Shui magic and poured it into the milky white jade. The purple Gui Shui magic entered it like ink. However, a strange scene happened. After the purple magic entered the jade, in an instant it rippled on its own. It was discharged in the same way it entered. There was no trace at all, and there was no aura of the Gui Shui attribute. "Is it really the jade of heaven?" Lan Bauer said in disbelief. Ji Dong asked again, "Is the jade of heaven very precious?" Lan Bauer nodded and said, "Have you heard of the 5 elements divine stone?" Ji Dong said, "Of course I have heard of it. The 5 elements divine stone is actually 10 kinds of gemstones, each representing a type of attribute. It has extremely pure energy." Lan Bauer said, "The 5 elements divine stone is already a treasure of heaven and earth, but at most it is the divine grade of the earth. However, the jade of heaven is like the divine grade of the heaven. Even if all 10 5 elements divine stones were gathered together, it would not be comparable to a piece of jade of heaven that is only 1% of their size. Ji Dong, you have picked up a treasure this time, and it is a priceless treasure." Priceless treasure? What is the use of this thing? It does not seem to have any magical aura, so how can it be better than the 5 elements divine stone? What can it do? If it is just a toy, no matter how precious it does not have much meaning to us magicians. Toy, Lonbauer said impatiently, it seems that you really do not know anything. You are right, the jade of heaven does not have any magical attribute, but have you ever thought that even a grain of sand has its own attribute, such as the earth attribute? When an item has no attribute, what does it represent? Hearing Lonbauer say this, Ji Dong immediately understood. His body trembled slightly, and he said, "Chaos?" Lonbauer said seriously, "That's right, it is chaos. The jade of heaven is a treasure condensed from the aura of chaos when the chaos was first formed, when the chaos broke apart and turned into the 5 elements, giving birth to all things in the world. There are very few of them, and they only exist in legends. With such a treasure on you, no matter what your own magical attribute is, there will be no danger of cultivation deviation. As long as you place it on your chest, where the source of your magical power is, you will not have to worry about anything even when you are trying to advance. Do you think it is valuable?" Ji Dong suddenly understood and said, "I see. The jade of heaven is indeed a good thing, but what do the 3 words on it mean? Deity slaying strike. Such exaggerated 3 words, what does it mean?" Lonbauer said, "The jade of heaven is a treasure that every magician would want to obtain. Its value is even higher than a divine weapon. I have read through the ancient records of my family. In the ancient records, the greatest use of the jade of heaven in ancient times was not to assist in cultivation, but to store memories, or rather, to brand." Chapter 161. Store memories or imprint? Ji Dong looked at Lonbauer doubtfully. Lonbauer nodded and said, "Because its body is of the chaotic element, no mana can harm it, not even the ultimate mana. Only extremely strong mental strength can inscribe it, so it's the best medium for storing. According to ancient records, it's usually used to store demonic technique. The 3 words, deity strike, may very well represent the demonic technique stored in this piece of jade of heaven. Without a doubt, a demonic technique that can be stored in such a precious material must be very powerful. It's very likely a sure-kill technique. That nethershade demonic wolf is really pitiful. It had the treasure, but it couldn't obtain the profound meaning within." Hearing the words, "store demonic techniques," Ji Dong's eyes lit up. He had heard that although danger lurked everywhere in the wholly evil battlefield, there were also many opportunities. The deeper one ventured, the greater the opportunities. Whether it was the corpses and crystal cores of powerful demonic beasts, or the crystal crowns and magical weapons and equipment of the powerhouses who had died here, they were all extremely precious. Naturally, there were demonic techniques among them. If it could be called the deity strike, then the technique stored in this piece of jade of heaven might really be a sure-kill technique. Handing the jade of heaven back to Ji Dong, Lonbauer said excitedly, "Ji Dong, quickly take a look and see what type of demonic technique this is. If it's suitable for you, then it'll be great. You can learn it immediately. Even if you don't have enough mana, you can memorize it first and slowly comprehend it in the future." Is she excited because of me? Ji Dong shook his head and shook off the stray thoughts in his mind. He took the jade of heaven and focused his mind. His consciousness accompanied his own mana and slowly flowed into the jade of heaven. It was strange that the moment Ji Dong's consciousness communicated with the jade of heaven, the piece of jade of heaven seemed to come to life. A layer of faint white mist was emitted from the jade of heaven, and in the blink of an eye, it wrapped around Ji Dong's right hand. That peaceful aura indeed did not have any attribute. All the various magical elements in the air were completely dispersed. With Ji Dong's body as the center, the area within 3 meters became a magical element vacuum. Ji Dong's hand slid down, and the jade of heaven was like a small fish carved out of white jade. With a slight movement, it had already entered through the gap in the breastplate of the Junmo Yin-Yang armor on Ji Dong's chest. It tightly stuck to the center of Ji Dong's chest, as if it was embedded there. A warm and moist feeling entered his body. In that instant, all the pores on Ji Dong's body seemed to open up. The vermilion bird armor automatically retracted, and that warm and moist feeling entered his body in countless strands. After the strands of warm air entered Ji Dong's body, they moved chaotically in all directions, as if they were looking for something. At this moment, the chaotic flame in Ji Dong's chest suddenly fluctuated violently. As if it had sensed the aura of the chaotic flame, the first strand of warm air that entered Ji Dong's chest suddenly moved, and shot into the chaotic flame like an arrow. The chaotic flame was like a scout for all the warm air currents, and found its target. In the next moment, the countless strands of warm air currents instantly surged and entered the chaotic flame. In that instant, the chaotic flame in Ji Dong's chest suddenly rose as if it had obtained fuel. Ji Dong's body stiffened, and an extremely strange feeling appeared in his heart. Previously, after the yin-yang vortex had evolved into a yin-yang fish, his body could already absorb the fire element from the outside world and add it to his own mana. However, at this moment, the mana in his body was completely blocked by the strange warm air currents and the chaotic flame. However, the rising chaotic flame was continuously splitting up huge and pure yin and yang fire elements to fuse with his own mana. Up until now, Ji Dong's chaotic flame had only been an extremely minute existence from a strand to a strand. However, at this moment, with the nourishment of the chaotic qi in the heavenly jade, the chaotic flame actually rose more than 3 inches in Ji Dong's chest. The air around Ji Dong's body condensed, and a layer of faint white light appeared on the Demon Lord Yin-Yang armor. All the mana he had previously used up was completely recovered in this instant, and even improved. He could clearly feel that his mana had instantly risen from level 49 to the peak of level 50, and was only a step away from the last level of the quadruple crown. It was also at this moment that the black and gold yin-yang fish quietly turned black and white, just like the Tai Chi he had seen in his previous life. The chaotic flame sat in the center, causing the yin-yang fish to have a faint layer of milky white luster. All the elements in the air quietly moved away, as if they were being repelled. Even the yin-yang crown on top of Ji Dong's head had turned milky white at this moment. The originally overlapping yin-yang flames had transformed into milky white flames, and his entire temperament had become even more reserved. His willpower expanded exponentially. If his previous spiritual world was only the size of a palm, then, at this moment, it seemed as if it had suddenly grown to 10 square meters. The spiritual imprint in the jade of heaven instantly merged with his own imprint. Without needing to look or remember, all the contents of the jade of heaven had already been deeply imprinted in Ji Dong's mind. The words jumped in his heart, becoming the most profound memory. Ji Dong still didn't know how to cultivate the chaotic flame, let alone control it. However, he had already been saved by the chaotic flame in several critical moments. This made him deeply understand how important this most original flame was. Although he still didn't know how to use this mysterious flame, the strengthening of the chaotic flame was undoubtedly extremely beneficial to his cultivation. The 3-inch tall chaotic flame became much more obvious. Ji Dong's reserved temperament was deep and peaceful, and the arrogance and tyranny in his bones were completely hidden. If it wasn't for the Demon Lord Yin-Yang armor's fierce and tyrannical presence, he wouldn't have looked like he was emitting any mana. The white light gradually faded, and all the mana waves had already disappeared. The Jade of Heaven had also disappeared, no longer existing. Lon Bauer was actually not wrong. For a normal demon master, if they had a piece of Jade of Heaven, they wouldn't need to be afraid of Qigong deviation during cultivation, and it would be much safer for them to break through any barrier. However, for Ji Dong, his chaotic flame already had this effect. Furthermore, the Jade of Heaven, which used chaos as its source, sensed Ji Dong's chaotic aura and directly merged with his chaotic flame as if it had found its home. This kind of situation was unpredictable, but there was no doubt that this kind of fusion would completely integrate the benefits of the jade of heaven into one's body. The milky white light was reserved. Other than his temperament, all the changes on Ji Dong's body had returned to normal. The slowly spinning yin and yang fish in his chest was still black and white, and no longer black and gold. Opening his eyes, the first thing Ji Dong saw was Lan Baoer's concerned gaze. "How is it? Is it the overkill skill?" Lan Baoer asked with some excitement and joy. A bitter smile appeared on Ji Dong's face. He said, "The jade of heaven has already fused with my body, and the things that record me are also imprinted in my spirit. However, it isn't some super-ultimate skill. If we were to measure it in terms of skills, it should be considered a benchmark skill. It can't even be considered a destiny skill." Lan Baoer was obviously stunned. She said, "That can't be. A skill stored in the jade of heaven can be a benchmark skill?" Ji Dong said, "Among the destiny skills there are two types, external attack and internal attack. In other words, there are long-range attacks and close-range attack. Only the benchmark skill is completely close-range, and it can't be external. The deity-slaying strike recorded in the Jade of Heaven can only be a close-range attack, or rather, it can't even be considered a close-range attack. This is because when it is used, no magic will leave the body. It can only be used when the body touches the opponent." Lan Baoer was surprised. She said, "What kind of skill is this?" Ji Dong said, "To be more precise, the deity-slaying strike should be considered a method of using magic. It completely accumulates the magic in our body when we use the skill, and when we touch the opponent, it will be released instantly. Through the records in the Jade of Heaven, I can only understand this much at the moment. More mysteries can only be understood after training. Baoer, when we leave the Holy Evil Island, I will record a copy for you." Lan Baoer hurriedly shook her head. She said, "There's no need. You killed the demonic wolf, so the things you get are naturally yours." Ji Dong smiled. He said, "It's just a skill. Everyone who sees it has a share. We are partners." Lan Baoer pursed her red lips. She didn't refuse anymore. She nodded lightly and said, "All right then. Thank you." She said so, but in her heart, she thought that it was not bad to have the same skill as him. They continued to move forward. With the experience of killing the demonic wolf, Ji Dong finally understood what the opportunities on the Holy Evil Island were. Although it was the first time he encountered it after killing so many demonic beasts, he was already very lucky. For others, the Jade of Heaven was just an auxiliary tool, but for him, it was no less than an artifact. The speed of the chaotic fire bat was improved. At the same time, it also improved his spiritual power, so he could naturally control his demonic power more easily. Ji Dong vaguely felt that after the yin-yang fish changed its color to that of the Taiji diagram, it would be easier for him to switch between the two ultimate demonic powers. The closer the yin and yang dual attribute combination skill was, the more powerful it would be. After killing the demonic wolf this time, the six-fold kill curse, which was not inferior to the ultimate skill and could save a lot of demonic power, had opened a new door for him. It would also be the main direction of Ji Dong's practice in the future. The benefits of the Jade of Heaven undoubtedly made it easier for him to practice in this aspect. As for the God-killing strike, he would have to wait until he left the Holy Evil battlefield to study it. According to the record, this skill seemed to be simple and did not match its name. However, could it be recorded in the Jade of Heaven so easily? Everything had its own priorities. It would not be too late to research the mysteries of the God-slaying strike when he could truly calm down. There were not many magical beasts on the 7th floor. After all, they were all Class 6 magical beasts. Every single one of them had their own territory. Ji Dong and Lan Baoer continued onwards. Under the situation where they could not dodge, Ji Dong killed another 4 Class 6 magical beasts before finally arriving at the boundary between the 7th and 8th floors. Fortunately, they did not come across any magical beasts that were stronger than them on the 7th floor. Even if they came across a Class 7 magical beast, it would not be so easy. Class 7 magical beasts were far more powerful than Class 6 magical beasts. A single Class 7 magical beast was equivalent to 10 Class 6 magical beasts at the very least. This was also why Ji Dong did not hold back at all when he faced the Platinum Celestial Pring. Once the powerful Class 7 magical beast unleashed its full power, they would probably not have a chance anymore. Out of the 5 Class 6 magical beasts, Ji Dong gave 2 of them to Lan Bao. He was selective when he faced Class 6 magical beasts. If it were him, he would do his best to choose fire-attributed magical beasts. With Lan Bao present, he could obviously use both fire-attributed and water-attributed magical beasts at the same time. After using the 6-fold curse several times, Ji Dong became more and more familiar with this new combination skill. His guess was very accurate. Due to the effect of the Heaven Jade on the chaotic fire, it was easier for him to switch between extreme Yang fire and extreme Yin fire than before. It did not even bring any burden to his body. The power of the 6-layered killing curse had also become more and more astonishing. If there was any limitation to this skill, it would be the distance. If he wanted to use it, he had to first get close and hit the opponent with the first attack. When they arrived at the boundary between the 7th and 8th floors, the most obvious change was still the environment. Standing halfway up a mountain, Ji Dong looked forward and saw that the front was already blocked by a towering mountain. The misty clouds only seemed to reach halfway up the mountain. The majestic aura surged out, but it was not something that the 7th floor of the Holy Evil Island could compare to. The 2 of them stopped. Every time they were about to enter the next floor, they would stop to adjust their strength and simply replenish themselves so that they could better face stronger opponents. What Ji Dong found rather strange was that they did not encounter a single demon master from the 5 Elements continent along the way. Just as Ji Dong and Lan Bao were about to rest for a while, a deafening and extremely dull rumble suddenly rang out from the mountains in the distance. The violent rumble was like several hundred bolts of lightning exploding at the same time. It reverberated through the mountains, and its aura was extremely shocking. The huge thunder triggered a series of reactions. Other than the huge rumble, the dark clouds in the sky also began to violently ripple. The clouds above the mountainside were violently pushed aside, revealing the pure white mountain peak. Chapter 162. Thunder. Ji Dong's eyes suddenly narrowed. What did the sound of thunder represent? If it wasn't heavenly thunder, then in his memory, only Fury, the Thunder Emperor, could produce such a sound. This was at least the sound produced by the full release of a top-notch sure-kill skill. It might even be an existence that surpassed a top-notch sure-kill skill. If it wasn't for an extremely strong opponent, why would Senior Brother do this? Senior Brother has encountered a strong enemy. Let's go quickly. At this time, Ji Dong could no longer care about anything else. He grabbed Lan Bao's hand and instantly accelerated. Relying on the super flexibility of the flying serpent transformation, his body released explosive power and rushed into the 8th layer of the Holy Evil Island like an arrow. Lan Bao could clearly feel Ji Dong's anxiety at this moment. She did not ask much and hurriedly gathered all her magic power to reduce Ji Dong's burden as much as possible. What made her feel a little regretful was that Ji Dong's injury only had a metallic texture, but it did not feel real at all. The dual brilliance of sun and moon gloves and the Devil Lord Yin-Yang armor completely covered his palm. In the blink of an eye, the two arrived at the foot of the opposite mountain. Ji Dong paused for a moment and directly chose to climb the mountain. The mountain here was so high and the battle there was so fierce. From the top of the mountain, it should be easier to determine Fury's position, so that he could rush over as soon as possible. With the ultimate dual fire and his own 5 elements formation, Ji Dong was confident that he could help Fury. The two figures of Ji Dong and Lan Bauer advanced quickly on the mountain like jumping stars. For ordinary people, it would take at least a few hours to climb a mountain of more than 2,000 meters. However, for magicians like Ji Dong and Lan Bauer, they had already passed the waist of the mountain in at least a quarter of an hour and arrived above the clouds. However, at this moment, something strange suddenly happened. The whole mountain suddenly trembled without warning. Then, accompanied by a loud rumble, Ji Dong and Lan Bauer saw that not far above their heads, all the way to the top of the mountain suddenly swayed. The next moment, thousands of tons of ice and snow suddenly crashed down. Not good, an avalanche. The thunder was so loud that it shook the ice and snow on the mountain. It was only now that it started to collapse. Nature's power was limitless. Seeing the ice and snow falling from the sky, Lan Bauer couldn't help but be shocked. Ji Dong reacted very quickly. He pulled Lan Bauer into his arms and activated the vermilion bird transformation. At the same time, his entire body was covered in a layer of golden red flames. He flapped his wings and flew into the sky. He took advantage of the moment when the avalanche had not completely descended. At this point, he no longer cared about hiding himself. From afar, Ji Dong looked like a big bird flying high. He spread his wings like a vermilion bird descending. He shot into the sky with golden red flames. The ice and snow that were closest to them melted when it came into contact with the extremely hot magic of the Yang fire. It was directly turned into steam. Without waiting for more ice and snow to fall, the two of them were already in midair. The yin-yang fish appeared behind Ji Dong, but this time, it had been inscribed with the soaring Yang fire matrix. Ji Dong's embrace was a bit domineering. It made Lan Bauer uncomfortable. However, at this moment, this kind of embrace made her feel very safe. Listening to the rumbling under her feet, Lan Bauer felt her heart tremble. If it was just her, she might have already died in this ice and snow. Even a water element demon master would not be able to withstand such terrifying ice and snow. Naturally, Ji Dong did not know what Lan Bauer was thinking at this moment. He flapped his wings and shot towards the top of the mountain like a flaming meteor. With the amplification of the soaring Yang fire matrix, his flying speed was not inferior to any flying magical beast. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had arrived at the top of the mountain. It was only at this moment that the might of the avalanche was fully displayed. It could be clearly seen that the mountain had already turned into a world of ice and snow. Large amounts of icy mist rose into the air, and the rumbling continued for a long time. The astonishing might of the avalanche was breathtaking. Ji Dong landed steadily on a broken piece of ice on the top of the mountain. He released his embrace and looked at Lan Bauer's frightened face. He said in a low voice, "It's okay now." Lan Bauer nodded hurriedly. Her delicate appearance, coupled with the panic in her purple eyes, was exceptionally lovable. She combed her slightly messy silver hair and stole a glance at the embrace that had been so close to her. Lan Bauer said softly, "You saved me again." Ji Dong shook his head and looked into the distance. At this moment, he did not pay too much attention to Lan Bauer. His senior's safety was the most important thing. At this moment, another violent roar of thunder sounded. Amidst the loud rumble, one could see from the high ridge that they were at that moment that a bolt of bluish-purple lightning shot into the sky 3 mountains away from where they were. The dark clouds in the sky also lit up with bolts of lightning. It was as if the 10,000 lightning calamity realm had been triggered. "Senior should be over there. Let's hurry over." Ji Dong pointed in the direction where the lightning had appeared. Just as he was about to fly up with Lan Bauer again, he was pulled back by Lan Bauer. "Ji Dong, wait a moment. What do you think that is?" Lan Bauer pointed to the side as she spoke. Ji Dong was stunned for a moment. He looked in the direction where she was pointing and saw that there seemed to be a person within the solid layer of ice at the top of the mountain, about 7 or 8 meters away from them. It was a person who was completely frozen in the ice. The two of them looked at each other. It was obvious that the person who was frozen there was already a dead person. They had only been exposed after the avalanche. They did not know how long they had been frozen there. Ji Dong's figure flashed and appeared in front of the layer of ice. He was surprised to find that the person frozen in the ice was actually a woman. She was wearing a dazzling golden full-body armor, and even her face was covered. Only her golden hair was frozen in the ice. Her right hand was raised, and her palm could not be seen. There was only a golden longsword that was 2 meters long pointing forward. It seemed like she was attacking. This woman was slender and more than 1.8 meters tall. She was a few inches taller than the current Ji Dong. Although her face could not be seen, there was no doubt that she was an outstanding female warrior. She should be of the Een metal element, which was also the metal element magician. What a beautiful set of armor! Lon Bauer could not help but exclaim. Gold, silver, and jewelry were always the most attractive things to women. There were almost no exceptions. The armor on the frozen female warrior was indeed dazzling. Although the golden armor was sealed in ice, it still shone brightly. There were many arc-shaped patterns on it. The patterns were dark gold in color, and they complemented the golden armor. In addition to her fluttering golden hair, she gave off an extremely strong sense of oppression. Lon Bauer said, "She is so pitiful. I wonder how long she has been frozen here." Ji Dong said, "If you like this set of armor, I can melt her out and give it to you." Lon Bauer hurriedly shook her head and said, "There is no need. She is of the metal element, which is different from me. Since she is already sleeping here, let's not disturb her." Ji Dong smiled and said, "The avalanche has already caused her to reveal the ice. If we do not do anything, and it is someone else instead, I am afraid that she will be directly smashed out of the layer of ice. I am afraid that she will be even more miserable. No matter what, she is still a powerful demon master. Although we are not greedy, we can melt her out. After we leave this place, we can bury her outside." Lon Bauer nodded and said, "That would be best. I really want to see what she looks like." Ji Dong smiled and said, "That is easy. You just need to dodge a little." To him, melting such a piece of ice was as easy as lifting a finger. He placed his left hand on the surface of the ice, and the Een Yang crown turned into a black Een crown. The ultimate Een fire was quietly released, and a thick layer of black flames covered the surface of the ice in the blink of an eye. If he used the ultimate Een fire, it was very likely that it would destroy the corpse in the layer of ice. However, if he used the Een fire to corrode and melt the ice, it would not. When Ji Dong's ultimate Een fire came into contact with the ice, he immediately realized that something was wrong. The layer of ice actually had a strong resistance against his ultimate Een fire, and the speed at which it melted was extremely slow. One had to know that he was using the ultimate Een fire, and not the ordinary Een fire. The ice and snow did not melt quickly in front of Ding Xi's dark Een fire. What did this mean? It meant that the ice in front of them was not ordinary ice. Ji Dong quickly increased the output of his magic power, and a strange scene appeared. The layer of ice 1 meter away was affected by the ultimate Een fire and quickly melted. However, the part of the ice that enveloped the golden-armored woman melted very slowly. In the blink of an eye, an irregular ice pillar that was 3 meters tall and 3 meters in diameter melted from the surroundings, appearing in front of Ji Dong and Lon Bauer. The icicle was clear blue and crystal clear, like the purest sapphire. It only showed its original appearance after it broke away from the surrounding ice and snow. It seems that she was not frozen to death by the weather, but killed by someone here. If I'm not wrong, what froze her should be the ultimate Een water magic power, and it is a very strong ultimate Een water magic power. The caster's strength is far above mine, otherwise my ultimate Een fire would not be unable to melt her. I'm afraid it will take a long time to melt her out of the ice. Now is not the time. Let's take this ice and help Senior Brother Fury first." As he spoke, Ji Dong waved his right hand, and a golden red light was released from the vermilion bird bracelet. The light swept across and absorbed the ice pillar. Ji-dong was surprised to find that when the vermilion bird bracelet's aura came into contact with the strange ice, it actually trembled slightly. After the ice pillar was absorbed, the space inside the vermilion bird bracelet shrank by 10 times, and a faint layer of cold air was emitted from his wrist. What a strong ultimate in-water magic power! Ji-dong was greatly surprised. One must know that this vermilion bird bracelet was forged for him by the third fire mythological beast, vermilion bird. This was just a piece of ice that had been frozen for God knows how many years, but the residual magic power in it could actually have such a huge impression on the vermilion bird bracelet. Then, it could only be said that the strength of the person who sealed this golden armored woman was beyond Ji-dong's imagination. Could it be that, the former heavenly stem saint? Without much time to think, Ji-dong injected a Bingwu primordial yang sacred fire into the vermilion bird bracelet. It was strange to say that the cold air immediately quieted down after sensing Ji-dong's Bingwu primordial yang sacred fire. The space inside the vermilion bird bracelet also returned to normal. Even Ji-dong himself did not realize that the 3-inch tall chaotic fire in his chest had slightly pulsed. Ji-dong wasn't able to release the chaotic flames as he didn't have control over such a powerful flame. However, the mana within his body contained a trace of the chaotic flame's aura. Even he himself didn't know that it was because of this reason that the frost on the icicle was temporarily suppressed. Ji-dong, how do we go over? Lan Bao's pretty face was slightly red, and she asked in a low voice. Ji-dong was slightly stunned. His plan was naturally to fly over directly. This was the fastest way. He had not noticed this problem previously because he was in a hurry. If avoiding the avalanche was a last resort, then if he flew over directly now, he would undoubtedly have to hug Lan Bao again. Ever since he felt that Lan Bao liked him, Ji-dong had been very careful not to let Lan Bao misunderstand him. In his heart there was no room for anyone else. However, it seemed that it was the will of the heavens that allowed him to meet Lan Bao again. He sighed in his heart, "Flaming Bar, if you see this, don't blame me. Bao, we are friends, and now we are comrades. This is an urgent matter, and I have to act according to the situation. Please forgive me." Ji-dong was never an indecisive person. After thinking for a while, he had already made a decision. He took a step forward, and as Lan Bao let out a soft cry of surprise, he had already hugged her by the waist. His figure flashed, and he had already activated the soaring yang flames formation to its limit. He suddenly rose from the top of the mountain, and like a golden meteor, he shot straight in the direction of the thunder and lightning. During the avalanche earlier, Lan Bao was still a little frightened. At this time, her emotions had already calmed down. When she was hugged by Ji-dong again, she subconsciously opened her arms to hug Ji-dong's neck. However, she realized that the spikes around the Junimo Yin-Yang armor's mask would hurt her. However, she did not retract her arms. Instead, she turned to hug Ji-dong's waist, and pressed her body against his armor that was emitting a scorching aura. Even though the fire-attributed magic made her, a water-attributed demon master, very uncomfortable, at this moment, her heart was filled with a strange warmth. In the blink of an eye, they had crossed 3 mountain peaks. Ji-dong heaved a sigh of relief. During this process, he did not encounter any attacks from magical beasts. It must be known that at this time, his body was burning with the ultimate yang flames, and his target was very obvious. When he flew past the 3rd mountain peak, his eyes suddenly opened up. What appeared in front of him was actually a huge basin. Lightning flashed, and there was another violent roar. This time, it directly exploded in front of Ji-dong. Chapter 163. Ji-dong and Lan Bao finally flew past the 3 peaks and entered the 8th layer of the Holy Evil Island. What appeared in front of them was a basin. It was extremely large, and it was surrounded by mountains. There were all kinds of plants growing in the basin. However, he was not in the mood to appreciate these at the moment. When he looked at the basin, he saw fury at first glance. There was a thunderous rumble, but it was not made by fury. In the center of the basin, a magical beast that Ji Dong had never seen before was standing there proudly. The thunderous rumble that was comparable to a top-notch sure-kill skill actually came from its mouth. If Ji Dong had to describe the magical beast in front of him, he would say that among the dinosaurs of the Cretaceous period in his previous life, there was a Tyrannosaurus rex that was extremely similar to the magical beast in front of him. However, even the Tyrannosaurus rex did not have the might of the magical beast in front of him. This magical beast that looked like a Tyrannosaurus rex was actually more than 60 meters tall. It stood proudly like a 20-story skyscraper. From its head to its thick tail, it was more than 100 meters long. In the basin, all kinds of plants were destroyed. The magical beast's entire body was black, and there were spikes protruding all over its body. The tip of each spike was emitting a strong magical wave and shining with a bluish-purple light. Its ferocious appearance would make people tremble with fear just by looking at it. Although Ji Dong did not know what kind of magical beast it was, its strength shocked Ji Dong. Because this magical beast had spikes growing all over its body, it could be said to be flawless. It opened its mouth wide, and a bluish-purple light had already broken through the air, blasting directly at Fury, who was sitting on the purple thunder heavenly dragon in mid-air. Spitting lightning from its mouth was comparable to a sure-kill skill. How powerful was this kind of power? However, the Thunder Emperor was the Thunder Emperor after all. Fury's expression was solemn, and he was neither happy nor angry. Seeing that the lightning was coming, he waved the thunder axe in his hand. At the same time, the purple thunder heavenly dragon released a bolt of lightning to fuse with his thunder axe. In the loud bang, the two bolts of lightning collided, causing another earth-shattering sound. At least from the current situation, Fury was temporarily fine. If there was a flaw in this huge magical beast, it would probably be that it could not fly. With Fury's strength, it might not be enough to attack the enemy, but it was definitely more than enough to protect himself. If he wanted to leave, this magical beast in front of him would not be able to stop him. From the current situation, this magical beast's strength should have reached at least the 9th rank. Even so, could a 9th-rank magical beast have such a tyrannical aura? How much magic was stored in that majestic body that was 60 meters tall? Seeing that Fury was fine, Ji Dong heaved a sigh of relief. He quickly retracted his wings and landed on the side of the mountain. He put down Lon Bower and calmly observed his surroundings. What he saw shocked him. Fury was not the only one here. On the two sides of the mountain near Fury, there were at least 100 demon masters from the 5 Elements continent. Ji Dong also saw Yexien on the peak of the mountain. They seemed to be holding the line for Fury. And opposite them, on the other side of the basin, there were also more than 100 people waiting quietly. The yin-yang crown on each of their heads was emitting a faint circle of black light. They were the demon masters from the 5 Elements continent. No wonder they did not encounter any enemies along the way. It turned out that most of the demon masters from both sides were gathered here. It could be said that in this basin, all the elites of the 2 continents who were participating in the battle of the holy and evil were gathered. Fury obviously did not use his full strength to deal with that magical beast. It was obvious that he was afraid of the enemies opposite him. He was the backbone of the 5 Elements continent. Once his strength was damaged, it was very likely that his side would be completely defeated. What was so special about this magical beast? How could it attract so much attention from both sides? The light of the extreme yang fire was too dazzling. When Ji Dong flew over, Fury had already seen him. From the magic waves that were emitted from Ji Dong's body, Fury understood that his little junior brother had already recovered his strength. He was immediately delighted. He understood Ji Dong's strength very well. Moreover, Ji Dong had previously used a sure-kill attack. With his little junior brother around, it would be much easier to deal with the current situation. Ji Dong said to Lan Bao, "Bao, go and meet up with your senior sister Yi Xian. I may cooperate with my senior brother later. I'm afraid I won't be able to take care of you." Lan Bao nodded and said, "You must be careful. There are many enemies on the other side." After saying that, she immediately soared up and went to meet up with Yi Xian. Looking at Lan Bao's back, Ji Dong could not help but sigh in his heart, "Bao, you really are a good girl who understands others. It's a pity that we are not fated to be together. I'm sorry." As he thought about it, Ji Dong suddenly raised his head and shouted at Fury, who was in the sky, "Senior brother, let me help you." As he said that, Ji Dong soared up and turned into a golden stream of light, flying straight towards the purple thunder sky dragon. The two of them were telepathic. At the same time that Ji Dong soared up, Fury activated the purple thunder sky dragon and slammed it towards the huge creature below. The glaring purple light on the thunder axe and the lightning on the purple thunder sky dragon were released at the same time. The man and the dragon became one as they slashed down. Although this was a normal attack, the Thunder Emperor Fury used the purple thunder sky dragon that was as high as the 8th level. Even a normal attack was equivalent to a sure kill skill of his own. This was the importance of a companion mount. With the help of a mount, the strength of a Devil Master would definitely increase by several times. The monster was also very afraid of Fury. This was the first time it encountered an enemy that could not be killed by its lightning. Especially with so many humans on the surrounding mountains, it was constantly in a frenzied state of mind. It had already tried to break out of the encirclement a few times, but no matter which direction it attacked, it would immediately be met with the joint attack of hundreds of Devil Masters. It could not break out of the encirclement no matter how hard it tried. Facing Fury's sudden attack, it naturally had no time to care about Ji Dong, who was flying up. Once again, it spat out a bolt of lightning, and the violent roar was heard again. This time, Ji Dong was completely close to the power of the lightning. He only felt that the magical elements in the air were instantly thrown into disorder. At the center of the collision between Fury and the monster's lightning, a huge suction force instantly erupted, as if it wanted to suck everything in the surroundings into the range of the lightning. The soaring Yang Flames formation was activated. Ji Dong's figure stretched out, and he had already reunited with Fury. He sat on the back of the purple thunder sky dragon, and was behind Fury. The two brothers reunited. Fury was in a good mood, and he laughed. The purple thunder sky dragon instantly spread its wings, and in the blink of an eye, it had already risen into the air. Most of the demon masters who were watching the battle revealed a look of surprise. The Thunder Emperor, Fury, was not only famous in the Five Elements continent, but also in the eyes of the elites of the Five Elements continent who participated in the battle of the holy and evil. They had never seen him before. There was a second person sitting on the back of Fury's powerful purple thunder sky dragon. Ji Dong's demon lord Yin-Yang armor shone with a dark red luster, and when he rose into the air, a golden light burst out. Although there were only 4 Yin-Yang crowns on his head, when he soared into the air, he gave off an invisible pressure. Discussions rang out on both sides of the mountain peaks at the same time. Most people were guessing the identity of Ji Dong. On the side of the Five Elements continent, there were a few disciples of the Yin-Yang Hall who knew about the situation. Although they did not know how strong Ji Dong was, they still remembered how Ji Dong instantly killed the second seat of the Yin-Yang Hall, Ji Yifeng, whose magic power was as high as level 58 at the party. Although at that time, according to the rules, Ji Yifeng was not allowed to attack, and could only take the attack head-on. However, the fact that Ji Dong could break through the defense of a level 58 earth element and kill Ji Yifeng had set off a huge uproar in the Yin-Yang Hall at that time. At this time, Ji Dong's strength had increased to the strength of 4 crowns and 4.5 stars, and his strength would naturally increase again. Therefore, none of the disciples of the Enyang Hall dared to look down on him. As for the side of the dark five elements continent, two figures that Ji Dong was familiar with were hidden in the darkness in the corner of the mountain peak. Seeing Ji Dong appear, the voluptuous woman with long dark green hair could not help but exclaim. It was the dark wood saint disciple, Scorpion. Not far from Scorpion, the dark water saint disciple, Han Yu, said coldly, "Looks like that kid's strength has increased again. Back then, you didn't let me kill him. If I had made a move earlier and killed him before the Thunder Emperor arrived, there would not have been so much trouble. Although he cannot compare to the Thunder Emperor, his potential is even more terrifying than the Thunder Emperor's." Enough. Let's wait and see. In the darkness, a low voice rang out. Han Yu immediately stopped talking, and his expression clearly showed some respect. Regaining their confrontation, Fury placed his huge thunder axe on the back of the purple thunder brilliant heavenly dragon and said, "Little junior brother, has your body fully recovered?" Ji Dong took the lead and said, "Senior brother, don't worry. There's no problem anymore. We can fight." Fury laughed heartily and said, "All right, then let us brothers fight against the strong enemy together." Ji Dong lowered his voice and asked, "Senior brother, what's the situation now?" Fury said, "The situation is not good. This stalemate is very disadvantageous for us. You can see that the main target of this magical beast is me. Although we are not afraid of the people of the Five Elements continent, their dark heavenly disciples are almost all there. I haven't seen them for 5 years, their strength has increased greatly. If we fight together, we may not be able to gain an advantage. I heard that the light heavenly disciples of our continent also entered the holy evil battlefield. How did they get in? Do you know?" Ji Dong said, "Liao is unruly and arrogant. Senior brother, don't count on them to help us. It's already good enough if they don't cause trouble for us. They were able to enter the holy evil battlefield because the holy evil passage was opened. The holy evil island has a teleportation formation left by the holy disciples. Senior brother, what kind of magical beast is this? I have never seen it in the records." Fury said, "This big guy is a mutated magical beast. If I tell you its original form, you will know it. It's a thorn flaming dragon." "This is a thorn flaming dragon?" Ji Dong was shocked. "Of course I know about the thorny flaming dragon. According to the catalogue given to me by my grandmaster, it's a kind of sub-dragon that can't fly and belongs to the category of earth dragons. An adult thorny flaming dragon is about 10 meters long and 8 meters tall. It has outstanding ground attack power, but it's clumsy. Among the 6th grade magical beasts, it's just above average. However, it likes to live in groups. If you encounter it, you just need to speed up and stay far away from it, and you won't be in danger." Fury nodded approvingly and said, "That's right, what you've said are all the characteristics of the blazing thorn dragon, not a single bit less." Ji Dong said, "But this guy's body is 10 times bigger than the thorn flaming dragon. Is such a huge creature really a mutation of the thorn flaming dragon? This is unbelievable. The thorn flaming dragon is only a rank 6 magical beast, but this magical beast is at least a rank 9 magical beast. Also, it's a lightning element, while the thorn flaming dragon is a fire element." Fury said, "Not only is it a rank 9 magical beast, it's very close to it. I can tell you for sure that it is a mutation of the thorn flaming dragon, but you are wrong. It's not a lightning element, but a dual element. This is the most terrifying part about it. If it was just a rank 9 magical beast with a single element, I would have killed it long ago. Although it's a little difficult to kill a rank 9 magical beast, it's not too dangerous. But this guy's strength is beyond my expectation. It should be called the Thorn Flaming Dragon. Dual element magical beast? It was the first time that Ji Dong had seen such a magical beast. He couldn't help but ask in doubt, "Senior, did this guy mutate because of the myriad lightning calamity realm?" Fury said, The myriad lightning calamity realm definitely has some influence. All the magical beasts on the evil island will be affected by the terrifying lightning, so they are more powerful than the magical beasts outside. But it's impossible for them to have such a huge increase in strength. You should know that the thorn-flaming dragon doesn't have much room for improvement. If I'm not wrong, this thorn-flaming dragon must have eaten something to cause such a huge mutation. To be able to turn an ordinary rank 6 magical beast into a peak rank 9 dual-element magical beast, I'm afraid that the thing it ate must be comparable to a divine weapon. Therefore, the value of this thorn-flaming dragon far exceeds that of an ordinary rank 9 magical beast. Moreover, after its body mutated, it gained a lightning element. That's why it's so attractive to me. After hearing Fury's words, Ji Dong understood. Just like the heaven jade that appeared in the belly of the nethershade demonic wolf that he had killed earlier, the belly of this thistle thunderfire dragon was likely to have something that Fury wanted. On this huge, holy evil island, perhaps all the opportunities were related to the magical beast. No matter what was left on the island, it could be devoured by the magical beast. Only the frozen woman that he had melted could retain her original appearance. Chapter 164. After listening to Fury's explanation, Ji Dong immediately understood that the heavenly jade had been devoured by the netherworld demonic wolf because it didn't have any mental strength to activate it. Hence, it had remained dormant in the netherworld demonic wolf's stomach until he killed it. However, the thistle lightning fire dragon in front of him seemed to have devoured something that actually fused with its own element, causing its strength to increase exponentially. From this, it could be seen that on this holy evil island, the more mutated a magical beast was, the greater the benefits it could bring. After understanding this, Ji Dong understood why Fury was unwilling to give up on this magical beast. If the thistle lightning fire dragon's stomach really contained a lightning element magical weapon, it would be of great significance to Fury. As a magician with a mutated element, he could only rely on Zhu Rong to forge a powerful magical weapon for him. However, lightning element raw materials were too rare. This could be seen from the fact that his armor was not as good as Ji Dong's. It was not that Zhu Rong was unwilling to forge it for him, but it was because he couldn't find suitable materials. Faced with the temptation of a lightning element magical weapon, how could the Thunder Monarch let it go so easily? Ji Dong asked, "Senior, what do you plan to do now?" Fury replied, "I discovered this fellow a few days ago and fought with it. In the end, no one gained the upper hand. With the flying ability of lightning, it couldn't chase after me even if it wanted to. However, it was also very difficult for me to really hurt it. However, it's also extremely difficult for me to truly harm it. This fellow's self-healing ability is extremely strong. Even my strongest sure-kill technique is unable to heavily injure it. The huge commotion here has also attracted those fellows from the Dark Five Elements continent. What I can see, they can naturally see as well. Following which, the situation has become like this. With their presence, I can't do as I please. After all, I have to consider our Heavenly Stems Legion's Devil Masters. Once they lose my deterrence, it's very likely that the other party will turn out in full force. At this moment, it's difficult to advance or retreat. That's why I said that the situation isn't good." Ji Dong frowned slightly. From his battle with Scorpion and Cold Rain, he could tell that the overall strength of the dark magicians of the Five Elements continent was also very strong. Even if there were no experts who could match up to Fury, their overall strength was not inferior to his side. In this kind of balanced situation, once his senior brother's magic power was exhausted, the other side would definitely not let go of such an opportunity. If his side suffered heavy casualties, wouldn't this battle between the holy and evil be lost? The lightning attribute divine weapon was important, but so was the overall situation. No wonder Fury was in such a dilemma. Moreover, his senior did not have the confidence to kill the thorny lightning fire dragon. Senior, if you join me, we have at least a 70% chance of killing this big fellow. However, we must not be distracted. Right now, the difference in strength between us and the enemy is too balanced. We can't break it easily. I suggest that we retreat and not let the thorny lightning fire dragon escape. We'd rather spend 49 days to leave the holy and evil battlefield than let the enemy succeed. We can even gradually nibble away at the magicians from the dark 5 elements continent. Winning the battle between holy and evil is the most important thing. We can deal with this thorny lightning fire dragon 5 years later. Fury's eyes revealed a bit of unwillingness, but he still nodded and said, "That's the only way now." Ji Dong patted Fury's broad shoulders and said, "Senior, you don't have to be disappointed. Who knows, maybe in the next month's practice, something special might happen. For example, a powerful magical beast or a group of magical beasts attacking this basin, or—" As soon as Ji Dong said that, his eyes suddenly lit up and he said, "Senior, I'm afraid the variable has really come." Look, as he said that, he raised his hand and pointed to the mountains on the left side of the basin. There were 8 figures leaping towards the basin like stars. Their target was obviously the mountainous thorny lightning fire dragon. From the magical aura that these 8 people emitted, Ji Dong could tell where they came from. Weren't they the 8 holy disciples who looked down on him in the woods? The appearance of these 8 people immediately caused a commotion among the magicians on the other side of the dark 5 elements continent. The appearance of the 8 holy disciples had undoubtedly broken the balance between the two sides. The people of the dark 5 elements continent couldn't possibly know that these holy disciples and the Heavenly Stems Legion were not the same. Releasing 8 types of ultimate magical power at the same time was quite terrifying. Even the thorny lightning fire dragon let out a fierce roar. Fury suddenly turned his head and looked at Ji Dong. Both of them saw the determination in each other's eyes. Fury raised the thunder axe above his head and shouted, "Heavenly Stems Legion, the target is the Dark Magician. Attack!" As he said that, he didn't care about the thorny lightning fire dragon on the ground anymore. The purple thunderbolt heavenly dragon instantly accelerated and pounced on the Dark Magician on the opposite mountain peak. Fury and Ji Dong were telepathically connected. When the 8 holy disciples appeared, they knew that they were here to take advantage of the situation. Although they were extraordinarily bold, the thorny lightning fire dragon might not be able to deal with them with their ultimate magical power. However, it was not easy for them to kill the thorny lightning fire dragon. At this moment it was the best time to strike. Only by defeating the magicians of the dark 5 elements continent as soon as possible could Fury free himself to snatch the things and crystal cores that the thorny lightning fire dragon had devoured. The 8 holy disciples played the role of a troublemaker. They broke the balance and brought about an opportunity. Even the magicians of the Heavenly Stems Legion from the Radiant 5 Elements continent thought that the 8 holy disciples were their comrades after the appearance of the 8 holy disciples. At Fury's command, the entire Heavenly Stems Legion immediately moved. Several powerhouses above the 6th rank leaped up and rode their magical beasts. They were the first to rush out, followed by the disciples of the Enyang Hall and the rest of the magicians. Comparing the strength of the light magicians and the dark magicians, from the perspective of powerhouses, the dark magicians had more dark stem saints. However, in terms of overall quality, the light magicians had the upper hand. The existence of the Enyang school was not for nothing. There were more than 10 magicians who were above level 50. Moreover, in terms of actual combat, magical control, and other aspects, they were far superior to ordinary magicians. The strength of more than 40 disciples of the Enyang Hall was enough to close the gap in the number of powerhouses on both sides. Moreover, there was a heaven-defying existence on the side of the Radiant 5 Elements continent, Thunder Emperor Fury. The purple thunder heavenly dragon soared into the sky. Fury swung the thunder battle axe in his hand. The purple thunder heavenly dragon beneath him let out a monstrous roar, and dazzling lightning instantly erupted. There was no doubt that Fury's strength had been greatly increased on the Holy Evil Island, which was covered by the myriad lightning calamity realm. There was no lack of lightning element here. The purplish-blue lightning instantly enveloped him, Ji-dong and the purple thunder heavenly dragon, turning into a huge ball of lightning. Then, as the thunder battle axe pointed forward, the huge ball of lightning suddenly exploded, turning into 9 huge lightning dragons with long fangs and 5 claws. They split into 9 directions and headed straight for the opposite mountain. A head-on attack fully displayed the strength of the Thunder Emperor. 9 dragons flying together. This was the powerful amplification of the human-dragon fusion. Even though Fury's strength had reached 7 crowns, he was only using the 7 dragons' heaven-shocking art when he was alone. But with the addition of the purple thunder heavenly dragon, the 7 dragons became 9. This wasn't just a change in numbers. The 9 lightning dragons that erupted out were more than double in size. Each dragon was equivalent to an advanced lightning element surekill technique. The Thunder Emperor was powerful and domineering, but he definitely didn't lack intelligence. His 9 dragons were extremely scattered. There was only one goal, and that was to prevent the strong dark demonic masters from being able to rescue in time. As expected, although hundreds of lights lit up on the opposite mountain, they were completely disrupted by Fury's 9 dragons' heaven-shocking art. The dark demonic masters who weren't even at 5 crowns didn't even have the strength to resist. They were frightened by the powerful pressure in the air. The dark heavenly stem saints were all gathered together, so it was obviously impossible for them to scatter and rescue in 9 directions. Even though they reacted quickly, they only managed to block 6 lightning dragons. The remaining 3, under Fury's control, exploded in the midst of the densely packed dark demonic masters. In just this one attack, more than 30 dark demon masters were blown to smithereens. Violent explosions and the aura of lightning reverberated in the air, accompanied by the angry roars of the dark demon masters. Sitting behind Fury, Ji-dong's eyes were filled with shock. He wasn't shocked because of Fury's strength, but because of his own body. He realized that although his senior brother had released extremely powerful lightning element magic, he didn't feel any pressure at all. Even though he had the ultimate dual fire, this had never happened before. Could it be that after his chaotic fire leveled up, he had a stronger resistance to external elemental suppression? On the opposite mountain peak, a long howl rang out. "Fury, long time no see." An extremely calm voice reverberated in the mountains. A white figure rose into the air, and in the blink of an eye, he was already in mid-air. Dazzling golden light lit up below him, as if tearing the void apart. Immediately after, a black light flashed, and a huge black dragon silently appeared below him, supporting his body. Seeing this voice, Ji-dong clearly felt the aura emitted by his senior brother explode like a geyser. He pointed the thunder battle axe in his hand forward and shouted, "Li Yonghao." On the black dragon, the man called Li Yonghao by Fury quietly stood on the dragon's head. This person was tall and slender, with a head of short black hair. He looked valiant and heroic, and his entire body was filled with a metallic texture. His appearance was very ordinary, and there was nothing special about him. However, he had a pair of extremely deep eyes. The strangest thing was that although he was a gung metal element demonic master, he was riding a powerful black dragon that continuously emitted a dark aura. In terms of level, this black dragon was definitely not weaker than Fury's purple thunder heavenly dragon. As it breathed, black air swirled around it, making it impossible to see its entire appearance. Li Yonghao smiled faintly. Apart from his white robes, he did not even wear any armor. He appeared extremely calm and collected as he said, "The Thunder Emperor is indeed the Thunder Emperor. He killed 30 of my brothers the moment he attacked. His valiant nature has not changed at all." Fury sneered and said, "The ultimate weapon is still the ultimate weapon. Come, let me see your ultimate gung metal again." "The ultimate weapon, Li Yonghao." These simple words gave Ji Dong a piercing feeling. He had heard Fury mention this person more than once. Not only did he have the ultimate gung metal demonic power, his strength was also very strong. All along, he was only slightly weaker than Fury. Looking at him now, for some reason, this person gave Ji Dong an extremely dangerous feeling. Could it be that he was this generation's dark heavenly stem Saint King? To be called the ultimate weapon, it was very obvious that this dark gung metal saint was the same as Fury, and his forte was attack. Little junior brother, go and help the others. The aura on Fury's body continued to rise, like a volcano that was ready to erupt at any time. On the other hand, the ultimate weapon Li Yonghao on the other side looked at them calmly and didn't act rashly. Senior brother, be careful. After leaving these simple words, Ji Dong soared into the sky. The vermilion bird's wings instantly spread open, and he flew straight towards the opposite mountain peak. At this time, the Five Elements mainland's Devil Masters had also rushed over, and both sides were on the verge of a chaotic battle. Li Yonghao stared at the direction where Ji Dong flew, smiled slightly, and said calmly, "Brother Rui, you have a good junior brother. I heard from my sister that she was almost killed by your junior brother. It seems that although your junior brother is a little young, he is this generation's dark heavenly stem Saint King." The yin-yang crown on Fury's head shone brightly, and he said, "Li Yonghao, in another 5 years, my junior brother will replace me. This year, he is not even 17 years old, more than 10 years younger than you and I. When he really grows up, I want to see what your Five Elements mainland can use to resist." Li Yonghao said indifferently, "You don't have to worry about this. Fury, you are still the same. You have never changed, and you are still so strong. Do you think you can still beat me this time? Don't forget, I am a heavenly stem saint, and you are not." As he said that, a faint white airflow quietly descended, and a metallic luster enveloped his body. Suddenly, this white airflow expanded, and completely turned into a brilliant gold. A set of tight-fitting golden armor covered Li Yonghao's body, and a golden spear that was 7 meters long and as thick as an arm also appeared in his hand. From the looks of it, this armor and weapon seemed to be formed from his own magic.